Hello, everyone. Boa noite, pessoal. I'm here tonight, as everybody knows, with Tessa. She has a YouTube channel called Spirit Narc, and I'm so grateful that she accepted my invitation and she's here to help us to understand her side. And now I'm going to speak Portuguese just for the followers that they don't understand English. So give me a second, Tessa. But before I say anything, just say hi, whatever you want to say to us, and I will explain to them a little bit.
All right, so my name is Tessa. I am turning 25 in actually about 3 days. It's crazy. So I'm in my mid 20s. I have been diagnosed twice with NPD, and I am what I consider a collapsed narcissist, meaning that I had an ego death that kind of tore apart my defenses, and I'm actually like healing. I'm trying to heal from this disorder. So along the way, I've been guiding people and helping them understand, their partners or even themselves. Like I've done therapy for narcissists. So that's just kind of a bit about me. It's been, I think, 3.5 years. So it's been a journey.
Wow, wow. It's amazing, because I always wanted to ask some questions to someone that, like, I had friends that I stopped talking to them, right? I give contact zero when I knew about it. I was very kind of confused and I was like, wow, why they did this? Why they did that? And I pushed myself away at that time. And then after I start learning about more and more, I was like, I wish I could just talk to them, like they could tell
Oh,
me.
and it's unfortunate because that's one of the worst things about having NPD is like the absolute trauma surrounding like vulnerability. I mean, a narcissist is never going to want to open up like due to lack of trust. So like, yeah, as we were talking about earlier, everyone is left to kind of guess like, why is this person behaving this way? Like, yeah, it's
That's why I think it's so amazing and you're being chosen because you're so young and you have the awakening, right? You already know. So this is amazing because now you can do something about it, right? Because if you're not conscious about it, how, but you can say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I have never felt more alive. So it's not just it's also been, yeah, it's been a personal journey for me where it's been worth it. And I always tell people this. It's been the most pain I've ever experienced to break this stuff down. In the beginning, I didn't want to be self-aware. I didn't have a choice. I felt kind of forced into it. But as the years kept going, I kind of started realizing like, wait a minute, this was all worth it. This is like, I actually feel like I'm enjoying my life in some aspects. There's still a lot of pain left to go through, but I always say, this is sad, but I always say there's a reason why most people with NPD run the other way from self-awareness. There's a lot in there that's not being, it's really hard to deal with, but you will get into all that,
Yes, and
Yeah.
I love to be able to talk to you about that. It's a gift for me because as I say before I speak in Portuguese to everyone, we know it's narcissism is one thing, sociopath is another
Yes,
thing, psychopath, right? So it's levels of it. So sometimes that's why I want to say that up front because she is diagnosed with narcissism and they do suffer, they do have feelings, and it's important for us to understand that. I'm not saying here to you that if you are in a relationship that that is the person is not working on themselves, that
that's true
you
for, yeah,
yes, it's
it's
different.
true for
And
everybody.
also, Tess, I don't know if you know, but I am a therapist. I'm a coach, a
No, I
Christian
didn't know that.
coach.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and also is a psych. It's another thing that I study, but in English I don't remember how to say it. But anyways, so for me as a therapist, it's very important to learn those things and get the answers that I still don't have. I believe God is gonna let you tell me today, by the
I hope
answers,
so. I want to
because
be that.
that will make the difference for me because it's when it's only narcissism is different. It's different because, and I want to ask you a question about that, but just for 1 second, I'm going to talk to them in Portuguese to
Yeah,
explain,
go for it.
explain that, and then we start with the questions. Um, but before that, thank you so much again for accepting my invitation. Thank you so much for being open to give your time here and to be open to say things that, people need to know, né?
Yeah, of
More,
course.
yeah, more knowledge. And I appreciate your courage and your time
Thank
and
you for having me, really. Like I always love the opportunity to actually tell people because I think this world needs it.
yes, yes, it's
Yeah.
a blast. I'm so glad. So, e now I'm gonna say em português to everyone. Pessoal, sejam todos bem-vindos, todas bem-vindas. Estamos aqui, né, nessa live. Eu sei que muitos de vocês não entendem inglês, mas eu estarei traduzindo depois essa live para que todos possam entender. Eu peço que todos tenham respeito aqui, tá? Que ela está aqui para nos ajudar a trazer mais conhecimento, que todos possam deixar sua pergunta se tiverem, mas no final, se tiver tempo, eu vou perguntar para ela, tá bom, gente? Deus abençoe. E vamos que vamos. So, I just let them know that they can leave questions if we have time at the end. You might be able to answer. And also to respect, because you're here to help, to talk about that so we can have more information about it. So, I like to begin from the beginning. And as I said to you before we came here online, sometimes I go deeper and I do profounded, I don't know if that's the right word, but more profound questions. And
Yeah.
if you don't feel comfortable about it, just let me know. But I will, sometimes because for me, Tessa, is like, I study this. Like once God showed it to me, like I had no idea I had the codependency. I had no idea about any
Oh
of
my
this.
God. And see, I've had codependent partners, so I've seen both sides of it. So I'm also very interested, and I didn't mention this, but I do want to become a psychotherapist myself. I'm in the
Ooh, yes,
I almost have my AA degree, so I'm like getting there, but
yes.
yeah. So
Great,
we'll
great.
definitely dig deep.
Yes, that's great. Exactly. I can send you some, you're gonna be helping everyone, like including psychopath, if they because I had another day someone trying to get me to do therapy with him, but it was a different thing. But anyways, I thought
ASPD, yeah, antisocial personalities. I've actually had, this is gonna sound so crazy, just being casually like, I've had friends that have ASPD. It's like,
that's nice because you can tell. Yeah,
yeah.
you can tell us about it. So, beginning from the beginning, but I'm gonna get there because it's something I want to see your point, about
Mhm.
sociopath and psychopath too. Because psychopath, they say they are born like that. So for me, it's like how someone can be born like that, and sociopath and narcissist, they turn into it, right? So for me, it's hard to understand because anyways, but let's
Yeah.
wait to not lose the focus. So if you can tell us a little bit more about how that started. You say you had a collapse, right? And then you got diagnosed twice. Tell me about the first and the second time, please.
Yeah, so the first one was really not something that I was searching for. It was my parents. I was 21 at the time, I think, maybe 22, probably 21. And I was doing drugs and stuff, and they got me into therapy. And the therapist, no, not the therapist, the neuropsychologist, which is like a level up from a therapist, did a bunch of tests and came up with like the idea of, oh, you have this. I didn't want to listen. And then literally, it's so ironic, but like a single month after that, I had, I mentioned I was doing drugs at the time. I had an overdose on psychedelics, and it basically destroyed everything that I had been doing up until that point. I was kind of going down the typical like pathway that a lot of people with NPD do, where I was very closed off to the world. I had this like performance type of feeling whenever I was like, I don't know, I was just very closed, and I wasn't in touch at all with my inner self, and it was just the whole whatever. And then yeah, this drug experience destroyed all my defenses in one blow. And because of that, the next day I woke up dissociated. So I believe that I had felt, because of the drug overdose, like I was dying, like I had fried my brain. It was a really bad one, and I could not perform ever the same way. Like there's a lot of, in NPD, there's a lot of fear of humiliation that's not really talked about. It's why a lot of narcissists are defensive. And like I figured that like since I couldn't perform the way I was used to, because all I could think about was like how I didn't feel like I was in my body anymore, how like I had constant thoughts of death. Like it was really bad. It interfered with everything I'd been doing. So I started isolating because I didn't want to be humiliated. I felt like I had just fallen apart. I didn't want people to see it.
Wow.
And I don't know if people are familiar, but like when you have your sense of identity based on others, like narcissists do, where we need to have people literally tell us who we are, if we're great, if we're whatever, and you're isolated and you don't have any of that, you just fall apart even more. So basically it turned into this unraveling of everything I'd ever built up, like all the walls I've ever built up. And I received, it's been a while now, but like basically nothing was ever the same again. And I'm really at this point now, 3 years later, hitting the core of like, why does somebody really become a narcissist? What's underneath all of that? How does it feel to face it? How can you cope with it? How can you know, like let go of the parts of NPD that like affect your relationships like unhealthily, that make you feel like you're not alive ever, like there's bad parts to it, you end up finding out. And anyway, my second diagnosis was in 2023, so it was actually a recent it was another psychotherapist, and he basically just reconfirmed the diagnosis after seeing me for a while. But it's been a journey. It's been really difficult because you figure out why you had all those defenses. It's because there's so much underlying pain. And I think that people with NPD at a very early age disconnected from their identity, from, their wants and desires. We don't know who the fuck we are, deep down. And yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, and also to tell you, I had a patient once that he is narcissist. He's Brazilian. He came to me. First thing he said, I am a narcissist. And I was like, wow. And I prayed to God. I said, God, help me to not to help. I mean, help, yeah, because I'm not God, to do anything, but to understand how that begins. Because once we know the cause, it's easier to understand and maybe help with therapy, right? Um, so this patient, he told me a little bit what happened to him. He was always listening from his mom that he was fat. He was nobody would love him because he was fat and things like that. He felt defective in comparing to other people. He didn't know how to do things that other boys knew, and they were rejecting him. So at the point that he said one time, I was like, I'm not gonna be this junk anymore. And I'm gonna be someone, like he told me literally that he remembers that day he was in school, and he said that to himself, and he said, I'm not gonna be this garbage anymore, and I'm gonna be whoever everybody loves and wants me to be. So and then he said it worked. He said it works because everybody likes it. They like
that's the worst part. That's the worst part, because I have a similar that's more of my past like how did I get here story. But I had a similar experience where do you know like The Sims by any chance? Like the game The Sims?
Yeah.
It's like a video game. Basically you can edit characters down to their personality.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So basically my moment was somewhere in high school, realizing, what if, like I became the main character? What if I edited everything about myself? I had similar, I'll call them traumas, like humiliations, where like you really, I think a lot of narcissists are told from like an early age, all throughout elementary school, all throughout middle school. It's a long slew of coldness and trauma where you're like, you learn from everybody around you. They're telling you you're defective, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're whatever. And yeah, there's an eventual, I think that many people can go through something like that, but for narcissists, the defense that's chosen is what leads to NPD, where it's like, I don't want to be that person anymore. I won't be. For me, it's like, it was me finding celebrities that I would idolize and thinking, oh, so that's perfection. That's how I'll be liked. And I would literally like manually repress my old traits and replace them. But it was very much like I had to it's an abandonment of the self, because like you're literally, you have to it's, I don't know, yeah, it's, that story really made me feel like I recognize myself in that.
I
Yeah.
could see in your face, and that's a good thing for me
Exactly.
to learn. And it's a confirmation, right? Also, he said another thing to me that his mom had that, right? His mom was a narcissist too, and the father was a codependent. So he used to see the mom abusing the father, and he would look and see and think, I don't want to be like him, weak
Oh,
like him.
that weakness, yeah, oh my
I'm
god.
gonna be strong like she is, right? And then it was another thing that he said that made him follow that path, right? Because he see that worked, right?
That's
Somehow.
the saddest fucking part. I'm sorry for swearing so much, but it's like, it's just so sad to me, especially now, where it's like I still can't rationalize that, because yeah, once I changed everything about myself, I mean, I'm being invited on podcasts, like people love me, people, you know, wanted to date me. It's like, how can that not tell your brain, you know, like this is what you had to do? It almost reinforces like, yes, you know, you needed to literally abandon your past self. They were that worthless, you know, they were that bad. And it just doubles down, because there's another part of it where you're super bitter. And I want to get into this because bitterness, I feel like, leads to lack of empathy, at least for me. But
Yes,
like, you get bitter at everyone else that can just show up as themselves. And they
yes,
like, they have like, they can just be present and be liked. And it's like that authenticity, or like seeing other people connect, is so triggering, or it can be very, very
yes.
triggering.
Now, see if that makes sense to you, because I look at the spiritual side too. Because once that happens, when you give up, right, you abandon yourself like your child inner, right?
Yeah.
Also the light, because we all made, I believe, we all made by one creator, is only one creator, right? So we all made as his image. So once you give up on that, the light that was there from the creator is also not there anymore.
Oh man, yeah. It's been a journey. I personally, I'm a spiritual person. I wouldn't say really any particular religion, but I've seen my own version of what you're saying, which is like, I am a musician, for example. I created music at the height of my disorder. My music was hollow, and it was just, it didn't, looking back on it, it was just so disconnected, and it wasn't like me.
Yes.
It wasn't like my light, you know, like there was nothing there. It was just like, how can I make a pop hit? It sucks the life out of everything. Which is one of the reasons I wanted to heal. Cause like, it's sad, but some people never, for some reason, they can never become self-aware, and they really live the rest of their lives like this, and they find themselves alone, and they realize they've lived an entire life, I'm sure at some point,
Yes.
just empty, or like just disconnected. And it's just like, you know, that needs to happen to less people. It's fucked up.
Yes. And also, while I was talking to him, I kind of sympathized with him right away, because he was super honest. Like he came to me and he said that up front. I had another one. My first one actually was one of them too,
I'm
but
so,
he tried to manipulate me. He tried to do a lot. The other one, okay. So I don't like that, because he was trying to play with me. The other one came and said it to me like right away. Chris, I am narcissist. I find out, and this is what happened. And I was like, wow, I need to learn more. So I appreciate that, right? So then I
yes.
told him how I see him, because as I'm talking to you, I feel you. I see you. I see the beauty. I see the good side, right? But I believe because you give up, that's how deep it is. See if it makes sense to you. But for me, after studying all of these years, right? So once you give up on yourself, right? The child that like you garbage, I'm not gonna be this garbage, right? So the child is there. Help me, desperate, like help me. But you don't want to touch, you don't get close to that child, because you're gonna have to face what you thought was a garbage, but it wasn't a garbage, never.
No, I'm still split. I don't know. I'm at the part in healing where I understand what people want me to do. It's this narrative where you're like, oh, you have to heal your inner self. I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm still trying to figure it out, because I think there's another aspect. What you're kind of describing is like, oh, there's a child trapped in there, right? Behind like a closed door or something. I almost wonder, due to how many years that has been repressed, if all of that is not just very fragmented. Because we're going to go into this, but the reason narcissists can switch up so fast, like rage and then I love you and then like whatever else, fragmentation. So like I feel like that reflects the inner self, even if like pieces of that young child or the inner child is still there.
Still
I
there.
really,
Yeah.
I don't know if it is. I don't know what that looks like. There's a part of me that doesn't want to find it there. So there's that, like where I would just rather create a new inner self.
I believe so, because I had friends, close friends, Tessa, that I remember one of them, like the feeling I have when I felt them from the inside out, right? That she know what was right and wrong, right? Everybody does. It almost felt like she didn't want to do that, but it was like kind of stronger than her, and she did it. But she felt bad, kind of shameful, kind of like I,
Yeah.
I wish I didn't do that, but at the same time, the power and control, the need of control. And I remember one time I didn't behave the way she expected me. So she had a boyfriend, right? She broke up. And then I respect her. I went to her son's birthday party. So the guy was there, the father, right? Because he was the father
Yeah.
of her. So, but he was with the new girlfriend, right? So she comes and say hi to me. I say hi to her, and she talks to me for a few minutes because I brought a cake, and she said, "Oh, my cousin does cakes and everything." Me as a Chris, right? Me, myself.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just say, "Hey, get away," because she didn't like her. But at the same time, I'm not being fake friend to her. I'm not being because I didn't give her my phone. I didn't tell her, "Hey, add me on Instagram." No, my friend was her, the other one, right?
Yeah.
And but she got it so, and then she started telling all other friends that we had in common. See, Chris is there. She's talking to and everybody started looking at me like I was doing something wrong and something bad. I see years later go by, and she's still with that inside of her. So I went and talked to her. Let's resolve this here now, because for me, the most important part was to be friends again and get over this thing, right? Once I start talking to her and make sense, right? Because I was explaining to her, I accept you the way you are. When you do wrong things and right things, I still your friend. So why you cannot accept me the way I am? I didn't do anything to hurt you. So she see the other people, friends in common, start agreeing with what I said. She got really mad. My goodness, that's I was afraid. She came close to me, looking my eyes like really close. She almost told me to get out of her house in a nice way. And at that moment, I said, wow, she doesn't want to be friends again. She want to be in the power and control. And that pushed me away from her. But it was like, wow. And I know she was abused from her own father when she was a child. And I don't know what else that happened to her, but I still feel the good side on her. I did had moments with her that she did had empathy for a second, but she did.
There's little like windows of it.
Mhm.
I've experienced that myself. I always say that like when I'm in the least amount of pain and when I'm the least triggered, it's the easiest to be like kind. I believe that genuinely. I mean, I have this friend group right now. There's
Yes.
like 3 narcissists in there, all diagnosed. Like I've seen the kindness. I've seen like that
Yeah.
ability. It's behind a million walls, and honestly it can be very confusing for people because like it seems like your friend or your partner or whatever is reacting out of like nothing or nowhere, and it's confusing. But unfortunately I feel like for people with NPD, there's so much trauma there that it's like you don't just have like 3 triggers, you have like a million. So you are constantly going around in life like able to be set off by like one of these millions of triggers. And it's for me, I used to just be constantly angry and constantly bitter and constantly stressed and constantly exhausted because
Do
of
you
all.
think you can put it in words so I can understand how what type of trauma, because I had trauma too, and I was like, I had traumas too in my
Yeah, I
life.
feel like we all have. If we're all here, I'm gonna be honest, everybody watching this probably has trauma. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't end up with people with NPD either if you don't if you don't need
But,
healing.
but for me, what kind of trauma that is so deep, that I'm trying to understand what would be so strong and so deep, what could happen to someone at that point that they just separate themselves from, who they are.
I think that obviously I can only talk from my experience or for my friends. I do have some of my friends' experiences, but for me, I felt from the age of 4 like I was already in a very cold world and I didn't know why. And I ended up finding out that it was because for a big part, both of my parents struggled with empathy in various ways. They're not narcissists, they're not bad people, but they had their own childhood trauma. And as the generational trauma cycle goes, my mother could not be present with me for any of my emotions because it would make her fall apart. She couldn't, like, apparently, in order to be a mother that could hold herself together, she had to remove herself. My father would just shut down super quick. I feel like he may have had his own thing going on. I don't know. But it was that coldness where, like, you realize there's nobody there who really sees you in your home. Nobody who guides you, gives you a map to your own emotions, where you're just feeling things and, like, your parents can't even see that. They can't even see you. They don't explain life to you. They don't tell you, like, what you're experiencing, or, like, it's that mixed with, I think, a mentality of, like, just go do it. There's, like, a sense of failure or success. And then unfortunately there's another, like, a lot of narcissists, when they would go to school, or like people who end up going to school, there's no safe space there either. There's a lot of abuse. So you have, in essence, you end up completely alone. Like,
This is important, Tessa. This is really important what you said, because I had some friends and some people that I had a relationship that they had a lot of bullying in school, like what you're saying, like other kids, and they start growing up as, like, I don't know. I had some people in my life that they hate children. They don't want to have kids because they were abused when they were a child. Other ones, they do like, and they had kids. They had a bunch, some of them. And that's why I say it's still having the same diagnosis. It's different because every childhood, every trauma is different. Sometimes you can have, I think one is more like a sociopath in going to psychopath. Um,
antisocial personality disorder. Yeah, I think that, like, there's a lot of physical. I was never personally, I don't know. I don't know why people, I'm still trying to figure out why people go towards, different disorders. And I think it's a mix between, like, the natural temperament of the child. Every child is born with a personality and a natural, they have things, they have go-tos that they'll want to, like, if they're upset, some children will withdraw, others will get, like, overtly mad, others will, like, try to whine or whatever. Like, that's the natural defense mechanism in each child. And that, plus the type of trauma, plus how long, like, it can end up in, like, an assortment of things.
Yes.
And yeah, for people with NPD, I really feel like there is a sense of, I am alone. There is nobody coming. There is no parent. There's no guardian. There's no sibling. There's no peers that understand. Nobody. Like, in the end, you only have yourself. And that's when it kind of sets in, where you're like, I only have me. And if that continues for a long, long time, as you grow and you're still not getting your emotions explained, but rather you're getting them shamed or, like, criticized, all this trauma just builds up. And then school's hard and there's humiliation there. And you just find yourself, I remember shutting off not only from myself, but from others, where, like, I became bitter. I realized nobody ever cared. That's what it felt like. So why should I give a single damn? That's how it goes in your head. Why should I care about other people? Why should I put myself out there for other people? They're just going to betray me anyway. They're just going to take what I want. I need to get what I want. And that's where, like, the power comes in, because you don't trust people, like, and it's such a lonely place to be. And I'm trying to unlearn all those things. And it has been so hard because, like, I have to learn for the first time to trust, to try and trust people.
What about, Tessa, looking at you talk about this part that there was nobody there, you felt alone. But what about how did you feel about yourself? Like, did you feel like I don't want to be this garbage anymore?
Oh
Like,
yeah, my past self. Yeah. Yeah. Don't consider myself my past self anymore. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
yeah, no, I want to understand that part. If you can explain to me a little bit more, how did you? Somebody told you that, or you believe that because since nobody's there for you, so I'm not worth it?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, so I feel like my past self was in a lot of different scenarios where I think they had to watch other women getting chosen. Like it was a certain scenario in high school where it was like they were always glanced over. I think that there was a lot of like you always end up, oh God, how do I even explain it? I mean, I seriously felt from the get-go, like, as I said, when I was 4 years old, you already feel so alone, and then that feeling continues, and you kind of just see everyone living their life, and you can't really break through. It's like being on the outside of a window pane of glass, and everybody else is inside, and it's all warm, and you're out there in the cold. And yeah, you see people getting loved, you see people getting adored. I believe my past self was ugly and embarrassing and a lot of other things. And in my perspective, yeah, I had to leave them behind for a reason. I felt like they were not good enough to get any attention. That's why they were constantly invisible. And I don't know. I'm curious, like, where do you want to go with that?
I had a friend that I remember. She was here and she was taking pictures of me for one thing that I was going to go. And then I was making like jokes and she was taking the picture for me and she saw me smiling and she looked at me and she said that to me, you are like this. And the other friend in common we had in common, right? She said, and she is like that too. And she said, I am not. At the same time, I had a feeling like she wanted to feel and be like that, but at the same time she was angry about that, right? And I
Oh
was
my God. Yeah. It's so complicated because for me, it's like a mix of like, God, I wonder what it would have been like to just grow up and just be able to like have a sense of identity that you were born with that everyone accepts and then just be happy or like whatever. But then there's also like satisfaction and where you're like, you know what? Like everyone else is kind of on the ground right over here. They can't even dream of what it's like to be up here. You know, like there's this like there's the loneliness
like,
aspect of it where you kind of, you know, as much as you feel like you're above it all, you also feel sad, like deep down, like very lonely, very,
yes.
it's a loneliness that is not easy to explain. It's almost like if you can just imagine, like, I don't know, like being in a coffee shop and you're surrounded by people chatting and talking and connecting and like I'll be in these scenarios and it feels like my entire world is just spinning around me and like I'm tethered to nothing and tethered to nobody and you know, I'm just listening to everyone else connect and it's just such a there's that aspect of it, but there's also a, well, at least, you know, I'm rare, I'm special, like, you know, like they could not comprehend me, you know, this and that. It's so many things.
I
It's so
know.
confusing.
And
That's
that
why
is this is a protection, right? That you need to, otherwise, because when you start thinking like that, you start going to the vulnerable place. And then to protect you, say, no, I'm different, I'm better, you know, like we
so
do that
much,
too.
oh my God, so much of my grandiosity has just
Yes.
died. I've when I said ego death, I really have been through multiple collapses. I mean, it wasn't just one. That was the original one, but since then I've had multiple like further collapses.
Tell me a little bit more about that, Tessa. Like, what kind of drug you say you used to use? I never heard about it.
So psychedelics are a big category. I've both used shrooms. I've used marijuana, which I definitely consider a psychedelic. It's
Okay.
underestimated how much that can affect people. But that's not even what caused all of my collapses. I mean, I actually ended up taking shrooms as well, and I've done 30 plus shroom
What is
trips.
that? Is it?
It's like mushrooms, like
Oh yeah, I had a boyfriend in Brazil that he used that. Oh my gosh.
oh man, they're life changing.
No, he told me this is hallucinogen. How you call
It
that?
is. It's a
Yeah,
yeah, it's
he
a hard.
told me let me tell you that because I freaked out. He said, "Let's go to my place. It's another city." I said, "Okay." So here I go, meet him, his parents. So his parents went to the neighbor's house and he got the mushroom, right? He's cooking in the kitchen, but he told me before that he used, and he look at people's face and see monsters. And I said, "Are you crazy?" When he told me he was doing it, you know what I did? He almost killed me. I throw it out. I almost burned my hand. I got the whole pan from the stove
Oh
and I throw
no.
it on the kitchen. My goodness, he freaked out. I said, "Are you crazy? You bring me home because I'm here to enjoy my vacation with you, and you're gonna drink this thing and look at my face and see monsters?" I said,
He didn't prepare you. That's not very nice of him. I feel like you gotta warn people. I mean, because yeah, they'll take you places. If you're tripping though with a group of people that you've agreed to trip with, it can be life changing, or even by yourself. But yeah, no, don't drag somebody to a place and be like, by the way, this is happening.
"No, I said, no, no, no." But I believe
That's
Tessa,
bad.
that yeah, either both sides, people that have codependency and also narcissism, it's trauma, right? And they both kind of don't have their identity because the codependent give away themselves to be who the other person wants them to be, and the narcissist they give them
The flip side.
they abandon themselves because they believe they are nothing, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I had addiction too. I used to smoke cigarette. I did use few other drugs too, but only cigarette was the biggest one. And I find out later on I had addiction with games. Oh my gosh, I go to casino and forget about it. I can stay and sleep there and don't remember because I forgot about the things that, was kind of, I had no idea. So after having friendships with people with the
Yeah.
personality disorder. And since my childhood, right? It was one day I was like, what is this? And then I say God revealed to me because it's something I would never knew if it wasn't him showing to me, this is it, go on YouTube. And he showed me videos there. This is how I find out. That's how God showed it to me. So then I was like, I love those people. Why? Trauma, okay, but I had trauma too. So, but
It's like two different. I agree with you because like I've seen codependency, the side of it where like my partners in the past have had it, and I think it's really a flip side, like two different ways of dealing with a loss of identity and of self and of safety. And I find it really fascinating. I really do, because I've had codependent people say things that I'm like, I relate to that. And of course, a lot of them don't want to ever relate to a narcissist. We're like, we
yes,
are separate. No, it's like hard for
yes,
people.
yes,
But I would say that, yeah, it's a struggle with identity for both sides. And that I almost think, I wonder if you will relate to this, but there's a fantasy proneness where, like, projection. We wanted to go over the terms, like a lot of like the projection that people with NPD do. We really believe that's what's happening. I think that there's a disconnect from reality that I'd really, really like to talk about. And I wonder sometimes if codependents also struggle with that, because I did see it like in my ex, for example. He had a hard time, like, I guess, understanding what was going on. I don't know. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts, though.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes because nobody likes to be, because we also, because I believe in God. I don't know. I'm gonna get to it to talk to you about the spiritual side later on if we have time. But I believe that no matter what question, no matter what is the question, the answer is always God. If That's how I got cured from codependency, right? Because I was trying to fix the trauma, the pain I had inside of me with narcissist relationship because they see that you're missing that. So you have loneliness, so you need friendship. So they will be the best friend. They will call me every day. They talk to me on the phone all day, and they will be there. They will give me ideas, and I was like, it was a
You
band-aid.
get a sense. It's interesting because I've noticed, like, it's like you get a sense of yourself through others, and it's like for somebody with NPD, like we're also receiving like comfort and other things from the other person. It's a very, I would say toxic, but like it works in a very, in the worst way. Like,
Yes.
you know, and I believe there can also be genuine care from both parties underneath that, all that, but unfortunately everyone's trauma is just being fed, like, you know, the person with NPD, the codependent,
Yes.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's like they get attracted because one is there to give, so they feel better about themselves. They feel important. They feel their value is in what they do for the other. So they're there to do. And the other one is there to receive. Take. Yeah. So
And what is that
it's a,
after a lifetime of waiting to be seen, right?
yeah, but see, both of them are in the illusion. Nobody can cure nobody because they not. First, you have to be okay with you so you can help another one. So if you're not well, the other one is not well. We're just trying to cover up in like illusion.
Yeah.
While both of them, who is the only one that can complete us? Only God, right? Only Him.
Well, I have a belief of, well, you know, spiritually, I'll just throw my belief out here. Spiritually, I feel like we are all the universe come alive. So when we look back into ourselves, that's like you're finding that soul,
Yes.
you know, connection again, and it's very difficult because I think there's also going to always be needs that we all, you know, we're always going to want to be seen by others. We're always going to want love. We're always going to want attention. Like these are normal needs, but it's like balance. When things are out of balance, that's when people suffer, you know?
Everybody likes likes, everybody likes compliment, but when you depend on that to feel good about yourself, that's the problem.
Yes.
And that's why I talk about God, because when you know your value from Him, how He sees you, what He thinks about you, then you see you're a diamond. You are very important to Him. So now you know your value comes from Him, right? Not from people, right?
I feel like, yeah, it's all about, I honestly feel like when you have more pillars in your life, as you're saying, like when you depend on one thing, when you're depending on, let's just say, you know, for me, it's like I depend on how people view me. If that's the only thing that you base your sense of self off of, is the external changes all the time. And what's even worse is like external people, you know, they have their own problems and traumas and histories, and they're not always going to even give you accurate.
I used to be like that too. Codependents go through that too. But that's why I tell you it helped me, because before, I remember when I started my channel and people come and say something to hurt me, some narcissists too, because I talk about them, right? It hurt me at the beginning. I suffer. I almost stopped because they tried to, put things in my head, and I didn't trust myself because my identity, it wasn't strong enough. So once I knew my value comes from God, and I know, I am dependent only on Him. So now, if anybody says anything they want to say, that doesn't shake me anymore, because I know who I am for the Creator. And that, for me, made a big difference. So now I learned self-love, because if you don't love yourself, how can you love another? So I learned how to love myself, but not as I am, no, because I know God's love for me. So I love myself because of that. And God says, love the other as you love yourself. So I need to love myself first, right? But it's easy to say, but how can you get there? So that's the point I want to get with you, Tessa. So we learn about it. So now I want to help, right? I want to help this person, right? They get angry because you want to fix me. I don't need to be fixed. Like I had one boyfriend that he got really angry with me. You want me to go to do therapy? And you go. But I used to go. I always go, right? So go do your part. I used to tell him, right? So I see difference in people that has the only narcissism. I see it's different than our progress, but I see difference. I see progress.
Well, I think it's because you're being told, in essence. I think it brings up the sense of defectiveness that's so avoided, where you're literally telling the person that, like, it means apparently if you need to be fixed, there's something wrong with you. Wrong with you, right? I've actually found a really good way around that so far, that has been so helpful. I mean, I'm in therapy. Like, I would have never, ever been there like 3 years ago, even two, maybe. Even it's been a crazy journey, but I always tell myself I've been able to separate like my who I am, you know, from my defenses. So like we all have defenses, you know, that are born out of trauma, but that's not really like the core of who we are. So maybe our defenses rage out on somebody.
Yes.
But you know, I realized that like me deep down didn't really want to do that. That's exhausting. That's tiring. I don't want this. I just want to be happy. But the defensive piece of me does want that because it's been trained to protect. It's like this is how I protect you, Tessa. I'm going to make sure everyone else falls in line so that you can be safe, you know? And it's like if you take
Well, who says that to you?
I would say that there's a lot of pieces. I think we all have pieces of ourselves, you know, like there's different parts of ourselves. For some people, there's more gaps between those parts. There's more dissociation between those parts. But I feel like I have a part of me that's a protector that does not give a single fuck about anybody else and is making sure that I stay safe above all else and that I get my needs met above all else. And that came from being alone all the time, feeling alone all the time. My parents were there physically, by the way. They were there physically, but they just didn't. There were a lot of ways in which I still felt alone. So that piece of me became really strong. And it's this piece that like if I think I have heard an insult from somebody, I'm going to make sure that their view of me is corrected, you know, so that I can feel okay in myself. Or like if I, you know, feel like I'm threatened or in danger at all, that piece of me will walk over everybody else. But having that, you know, out of balance has caused a lot of problems for me. And it takes away the shame when you say that's a defense piece. Like it's not like, you know, we're all covered by these layers. And I feel like the soul that we all have inside, that is not the piece to shame, you know, like it takes away of like, I'm trying to think of how to say this. It's like I've learned to say, you know what, my defenses were very hurtful today. You know, that doesn't mean that I am a bad person. It means that my defenses were trying to protect me. They did it in such a harsh way. How can I get them to be softer so that I can actually get the things I want? Like, you know, perhaps like relationships I actually want to care about deep down. And there's a lot of layers there. Like you have to actually trust a person to let them in, but you know, we'll get there. You know, what I'm trying to say is like it takes away so much shame to separate that from who you are, to give yourself forgiveness, to give yourself a chance to like, you know, not you know, it takes away the fear of being blamed a lot as well, because you're like, I hope that makes sense.
Yes. Also, this patient that I was telling you, it was interesting because we were talking. I want to know the answers, you know, making questions. And then he said to me, when I see somebody suffering for me, I feel special. I feel like, wow, I exist. I am important because that person is suffering because I'm leaving or because they don't have me there anymore, right?
Oh God.
But
Woo! That's something.
he was really honest because he goes to the spiritual side and he knows that it's kind of evil in a way because
Oh,
I'm
man.
gonna get there. Why? Because he said to me, but then I asked him this. I said, hey, but wait a minute. If that's what you're looking for, when you get us, right, to be in love with you, right? After the love bombing, we are there. We give you gifts. We do everything. You don't feel special. So why, when the person is suffering, then you feel important? So why not? And he said,
Matter.
yeah, he was honest. You know what he said to me? Yeah, Chris, good question because it's all about power and control.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
not about, but what he meant to say in that situation because it makes sense, right? Why don't you feel like that when we are
I think
giving?
there's a lot of pieces to it. I mean, I have my own opinions. I think that honestly, okay, so God, there's so many places we could start with. What do you give me like a question again, like so I can like answer more directly because that was a lot of things that I want to kind of. talk about? Like, should we start with the topic of love bombing? Should we start
Yes,
with
yes, yes. I was talking to
love
you
bombing?
before
To
we
me,
started here. So like let's do like let's talk about the phases. So when you get to know someone, to be able to see at your point, right? At your side, how you think, how you act. And please be open to see
I,
that part too, because it's important for us to know that too, you know, because it does exist. But I'm not saying you're evil, because it's different.
no,
When
I
you
know.
say, when it's a psychopath is another thing, you know, like that. We're not talking about that today. We're talking only about the narcissism, which you know, ended up hurting the others. But I see sociopath and psychopath, they have the sadism, like they have pleasure when they see the suffering of others. And narcissism,
I'm not speaking on ASPD today.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
But
have the
what I'm saying here, Tessa, is like
yeah.
narcissism is different, because sometimes they hurt people, but they don't have the intention always, right? Sometimes they can, like everybody else, but most of the time they just protecting themselves, but they ended up hurting the others because they
Yeah.
don't. We're talking. I want to talk about the empathy too, you know, because empathy is a big thing
Yeah.
in this.
Well, yeah,
But
let's do, like
I
love.
don't
So
remember my question anymore.
like love
What did
bombing, love bombing. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I got you. Okay, so love bombing to me is just such a okay, you want me to be honest? I think all of the narc terms are very reductive, because it doesn't really explain what's going on for me and for every narcissist I've ever talked to. The love bombing phase is just genuinely two people with identity issues, most usually getting high off of each other. Like the person with NPD is all in as well. For us, it can feel like we've met the perfect person. Oh my God, they're going to take away all the pain now. Like, oh my God, we're going to have this perfect life and perfect relationship. And the passion in there, while it may be very, very misguided because you cannot see the whole picture of a person, it's like, I'm going to talk a lot about splitting, but it's either good or bad, right? It's very hard to hold all of that into one person. It's very hard to, if anything is disappointing in the relationship, it can feel like a split, a black and white. Oh, now everything's terrible. They weren't my ideal partner after all. Oh my God. And then in those situations, you lose care. Like you don't even see the same person. It's like, as we've split ourselves, we've split the people in front of us. But you know, the highs and the, I hate using these words, but okay, the devaluing phases are both so genuine. And I think that's what like messes people up, because it's really that fragmented. You know, people grapple with this in their minds. They're like, okay, the love bombing, quote unquote, love bombing phase must be fake. It was here to lure me in, right? That must be it, right? Because how could somebody who claims to love me so deeply and show so much passion suddenly shut that off? It doesn't make sense to me, right? Or you know, whatever. Like people have come up with so many explanations, and it's really, I mean, narcissism is a mental illness. I'm going to be honest. Like it is a disorder in the way that there are some serious things going on in the brain where like it's really that severe of a split. Like healing from this, I've been struggling a lot with realizing actually how little control I ended up having over this. But like with my partners, I would, you know, in the past be having a good day with them. Everything would be all perfect. Everything felt like it was going perfectly in the way that I imagined it. Now, imagine is the key word here. There's this fantasy, right?
Yes.
Then they'd do something and it kind of ruined everything, at least in my mind. It ruined the fantasy. All of a sudden, I felt like the bubble had popped and I was falling on the floor and I was staring at this person. And all of a sudden, I just thought how annoying all of their little personality traits are, and how like, you know, I don't know if I even ever really loved them, or I thought they were someone else, or like, you know, I really, you know, and in those places, you know, you can't see,
Also, Tessa, is because again,
you know.
it's if you don't do that, you're gonna go have to look at yourself and say, hey, it's not that person only, it's me.
Well, that's another layer of it, but really it comes down to a genuinely very severe fragmentation. I mean, the person with NPD or the person with BPD or whatever disorder in the cluster B spectrum, they're bringing you on the ride that we're already going on. I mean, this is happening inside,
Yes.
And it's just, it gets externalized, and it leaves a partner so confused.
And one thing that I hear, Tessa, sorry to cut you, but I don't want to lose my thought. I see channels that talk about narcissism, a lot of them, and I hear them saying, yeah, cluster B milkshake.
She's a good one. Yeah.
I watch her videos and I ask questions because she goes profound in the spiritual side. I remember one time she talked about she has a friend that tells her, don't be friends with, like, he's jealous of her. Like, it was really like, it opened my mind, because that part I know it exists, when you go to the spiritual side. And I was like, wow, that's amazing that she's talking about it. It made me ask questions and everything, but I lost my point now because we were talking about the other channels. I will remember and I ask you back, but keep saying what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like the spiritual part of it for me is like it's like a soul fragmentation, I suppose. So like the soul needs to be healed. The soul needs to be whole again. As long as us, like we ourselves, are fragmented, we're going to view other people in like bits and pieces as well. And sometimes, that makes it very difficult to love a person unconditionally. I almost said conditionally. That was a slip.
I remember what I was gonna say, Tessa. So it's because you are like, right, I cannot be happy like that. So you're talking about this part that bringing us to your world, right, where you already are. So I'm not like you. I cannot have joy like you. So I'm gonna take it away from you, so you can feel what I feel. I'm not gonna suffer by myself. I want you to feel every day what I feel every day, right? Some of them said that it's how they act sometimes with some people. Not, I don't know, but it makes sense because I tell you, I'm being honest here. If I was a narcissist, if I had the feeling that I can understand how you guys feel, you see others and you see how they can be happy and enjoy, how they can connect, and I can't. I was going to be mad with God. Why this person can be like this and enjoy life and I can't?
There's so much bitterness. Yeah. And bitterness, to me, bitterness is the pathway to apathy, like directly. And then once you're apathetic, it's the lack of, quote unquote, lack of empathy, the impaired empathy, we'll say. Because my God, yeah, like it's very difficult. And usually seeing other people like that goes all the way back into, some people have never had this growing up at all. So, there can be so much bitterness and so much anger and so much pain. And like, yeah, and when you're in that mindset, people, if it's all too easy to want to tear the world down or to want to tear someone else down. I think that because of like a lot of the ways that people with NPD or just cluster Bs have like shut off due to how much pain they went through, we're shut off from like other people's energies too. People don't look like people. I sometimes forget, this is going to sound so bad, and I'm still working on this, but I sometimes forget people are even like people with thoughts and feelings. I just look around at the world and like, I just see like, it's just, I'm so disconnected from all of it. And at that point it is almost a little bit too easy to treat people however, right? Because you don't even see them as like, your brain is not there. Your brain has been shut off for a long time towards, human beings as emotional, like it's just, yeah.
So now you're talking to me here. You don't see me as a person. You see me as a.
Well, I'm freaking out now because I don't know what I was thinking. Honestly, I don't know. Okay, fuck. I feel put on the spot. But like my boyfriend says he can see it in my eyes when I like see him. He'll be like, "You're looking at me, like you're truly looking at me right now," and like he'll point out those moments. But a lot of times he says it just shuts back off. And I think it's protective, but I think that it's very easy to act from that place, like when you're not in tune with other people, where it's just like, oh, you're very removed from how other people might be affected.
I talked to one guy that I had a relationship that he's narcissist, and he told to me once, everybody has empathy, but some people choose not to have it.
Oh, the word choice is a rough word to use there. quote back. I'm gonna throw a quote back. This is sad, but I feel like I have to use all 100% of my energy to like be a good person. Sometimes we're like my brain, choice is a rough word. Oh my goodness. I mean, I think there's always a choice to some extent, but I've had to fight like hell to like be present with people, to let them in enough to have feelings for them, to let them whatever. I feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle daily, and it sucks. And that's why the stigma sucks. Like, seeing like the word evil online, seeing the word whatever. It's like my brain, I didn't ask for it to be wired this way, but I am struggling. I'm genuinely struggling to let people in enough to even feel for them, to even be there.
But you can. You're able to if you allow you to, right? Or not?
Wait, what? What's that?
You're able to do that if you want to and you allow you to do it or not?
I think it's complicated. I mean, I feel like the moments it has been the easiest is when I feel the safest with somebody. So somebody who I have hopefully tried to trust, but unfortunately due to like seriously my fragmentation that I've mentioned before, like some days I'll think I've learned to trust somebody so much more, and then like 3 days later it's like we never grew together, like because my brain will just shut that piece off. And it's like I feel like a lot of people with NPD struggle to even build the bricks that like would form a relationship in the first place. Like you can think you're getting somewhere with somebody and then you just haven't. Like it's like they've forgotten everything that you've built together, like, and it's like my brain does that with me. Like it's like every day is like a reset. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
But I'm fighting. I almost think like I think that for any narcissist that chooses to be self-aware or chooses to do this fight, it is the bravest and most difficult thing I've ever seen. And I am so proud of them because like, oh my God, they are fighting so much. They really are, and it's hard because like I do sessions with people, like I'm kind of, I don't have my degree yet, so I don't say I'm a clinical therapist, but I give coaching sessions to people. And I've seen people with partners with NPD and their partners are clearly trying, but they keep slipping back into their old patterns. And so many people's mentality right now is that, oh, well, the person with NPD just isn't, they must not be trying at all. They're just being selfish. They're just like getting their way. They're just doing whatever. And I'm like, genuinely, it's been my experience that even with my entire being set on healing, I have to fight daily to like even, I don't know, to not be incredibly symptomatic, including rageful, apathetic, bitter, angry, disconnected from my emotions, disconnected from others' emotions. Like there's a whole list there. It's a fight. It's a fight more than just whenever I hear the word choice, I imagine somebody just being like, I just choose not to empathize today. I'm not in the mood. It's like, I feel like life is a lot more complicated than that with this disorder. I feel like some days you're so fucked because you wake up and maybe you had a nightmare that brought some shit up and you're already shut off to the world, and then your partner wants something from you and you're like, you know what, fuck you. But like you're already like super, super apathetic. And what sucks about apathy is that number one, it's a defense that we didn't ask for. And number two, when you're in apathy, you can't even care about being apathetic. Like where do you go from there? It's like a trap, like it's, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's just hard to understand because it's so much deeper than that. But is anybody else in your family that got diagnosed with that? You have brothers and sisters?
I have two younger brothers. Oh God, they're not. So my youngest brother is in high school, and I think he's the least traumatized of all of us, honestly. My middle brother is having a really hard time. And I know it's not even my place to go into that, but he has not been diagnosed with anything, but he's already showing signs of something. And some of them I recognize, so I don't really know where his path is, but there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of generational trauma in my family.
Your parents, they said they were not diagnosed. What about the grandparents on both sides? Do you know if any of them had any?
It's only suspected, but my mother's father he showed a lot of signs of NPD. I don't know if he had it. He also was diagnosed bipolar, but unfortunately, bipolar is the most misdiagnosed thing.
Yes.
You know, along with ADHD. I mean, like, people don't even know what they're doing when they hand out these diagnoses. So we don't really know what was going on with him.
Yes.
But
exactly.
she had that was, and then my dad's mother had a lot of things going on. There's just a lot of generational trauma, but
Yes, that happens a lot. I just ask you because it's something very common. I see that happening. Um,
yeah.
so many questions I want to ask you. One of them is you talk in the other life that I watch you about this series from Netflix called Twilight Zone that you were trying to explain how
Oh
you.
my God, the Twilight Zone.
I saw because I said, let me see what it is so I can understand, right? Is
Yeah.
that a lady that she has kids and a husband, and all the time they are doing things and asking for her and say, "Mom," and she goes like, "Shut up!" And then everybody stops, and they like she says stop. She has some necklace that she controls the things around, and they just stop, and she's is that it?
Twilight Zone is it's an old show. The one that I'm talking about, I think maybe that might have been an episode, but it's a TV show, and they're black and white a lot of times, episodes that are just they present you the world, but there's something kind of off. And you don't really know what it is until the episode rolls out. There was one episode, for example, where like, oh, and just to preface this, this is how I feel a lot inside, like the vibe of the show, where like this one guy, I think he wakes up and, or like, you know, he goes to sleep and he's mad at everybody in the world. And he's like, I wish nobody existed. I hate people. And the next morning in this episode, he wakes up and everybody is gone in the world. And at first he rejoices and he like goes and I think he loots from stores and eats candy and stuff. And then he realizes how lonely he is and that there's nothing he can do about it. He wishes for the people to all come back and there's nobody. It's like he shouts out into the darkness. Not a single soul is left on the planet. He starts getting scared, like panicking. I think he runs around a bit. And then he tries to cling to reading, I think, as a comfort, but then he breaks his glasses and they drop off his head and then he can't even see. And it just puts you in these really creepy, like almost like dystopian aesthetics where like, oh man, it's just like, I can't really even put my finger on it, but like that aesthetic of like things just not being quite right, things being eerie is a lot of the inner world that I feel like I lived with growing up and that I still do. So I refer to it for that reason, where it's like that's what it feels like inside a lot.
Wow.
Very eerie, very lost, very twisted. I mean, you know, sometimes that shows up in my dreams. I would love to know what it's like to have a good dream.
You will. But I had a friend. I want to ask you something so you can tell me what that really means, right? To confirm. So I had a friend that she's really beautiful from the outside, inside to some. But she came to my house once, and I said, "Hey, you're so beautiful," because I felt she was kind of sad. I felt her, right? I said, "Look in the mirror. In the mirror, look how beautiful." She didn't look at the mirror, like she wouldn't. Some are like all the time looking in the mirror, right? She wouldn't. And then I said, "Look, you are so beautiful." And she, no, no, no. And then she realized that I thought it was kind of odd. Why you don't want to look at yourself? Why? And then she said, "You know why? My boyfriend, I wasn't like that, but my boyfriend, he cheated on me. That's why I'm like that now. He destroyed my self-esteem." And I felt bad for her, and at the same time, I was kind of angry with the guy because, he's doing something bad. But no, she was the one that was cheating on him. She was the one that was bad, and then she used that. But I was like, this one, she was not just narcissist, she was sociopath for sure, and she used to do things in the spiritual world, the woodcrafting and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Kind of. Maybe you could go into it a bit more.
Yeah, when you do rituals for wishing people things,
Okay.
Yeah, so she would do things like that.
So
But
you're saying, in this situation, she cheated on him first, and then he cheated on her.
No, he never cheated on her.
Oh,
She was projecting on him what she was doing to him. But this one,
she thought he was cheating on her, or
no, she accused him, but he wasn't. But she was cheating on him. So she
oh
was
my
trying
goodness.
to make me believe that she was her self-esteem was low. She couldn't look at herself in the mirror because she was being cheated, because she wasn't like that before. So she was just trying to make sense of something that for me to be feel sorry for her, right? But anyways, that's not the point I want to tell you. But she
Okay.
would make appointments with me and things like that, and she would just not come in the right time. She will always be late. She will stay in the car and make me wait, and then I always wait because I was like, okay.
So for some people, and I was one of those people, probably not to her extent, but for some people, they're not. Therapy becomes temporarily another way to validate or confirm your inner world and not actually heal. And I used to be like that when I first started out therapy. I did not trust my therapist, so I would try to like I would tell stories that I actually didn't care about and like try to see his reaction, so that apparently like he would tell me through his reaction what he really thought of me. But I mean, what a backwards way to go about that, right? But the other option feels like asking somebody and then having to trust that they're not lying to you because they're using words. Like people can lie, in my opinion, like very easily. So it for the longest time it was very hard for me to be present in the session, and I would play little games because I wanted to figure out what was going on or like get my needs met without having to actually be vulnerable, actually be present, actually be whatever. Or the therapist just becomes another way to like confirm or validate some aspect of the self. Who knows why? For example, she would wait in the car to be late, or like I don't know what she was getting out of that, but it must have been something to make her feel better. I don't know what it was.
What I feel is like she wanted to make me feel not important, not special, to give me rejection, some kind of
Yeah.
support. But it didn't work because for me it's like if something doesn't happen, it's because God didn't want it to happen. Because it's always I believe if you know.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yes, and if you, I believe in Romans 8:28 says that if you love God, everything works for your best, right? If you love God, so if it didn't happen, I believe because God is protecting me somehow, and let's do it another time. So it didn't hurt my feelings, like because I think she would get hurt, of course. If I would do that to her again late, she would feel like, oh, I'm not special because of the ego. So maybe she thought, because like when I feel something and I believe in something, I think the other person will feel the same way. The person
Yeah.
will. So I think because
There's
that
a
would hurt her, she would try to hurt me. And
Yeah,
it
I mean, well, yeah, and let me take it a step deeper, like just cause let's go down that road. I wonder if it's not even just feeling special as much as it's scary straight up to show up to a session and open up. And there's a million ways people can avoid that. And one of the worst fears of people with NPD is usually vulnerability, because it sends your brain in a tailspin, because we've been taught a lot that your real self, your real feelings, your real whatever is pathetic and weak. So if you show up, what if the therapist thinks you're pathetic and weak? What if you think you're pathetic and weak? What if you find something about yourself that you've been repressing deep down that you hoped wasn't there anymore, and suddenly it's there again? Like, self-discovery is the most fucking scary thing to do as somebody with NPD. It's like
I believe.
oh yeah. So there's a million and one ways to avoid actually facing yourself, and people will
Yes.
like perpetrate them or whatever. Like, and I think that, as I said, this is why I feel like it's one of the bravest things to actually genuinely face this stuff. And from what I've found, there has not really been I think there's like a fear that a lot of people with NPD have, that they're going to just lose control and suddenly like they will not be able to, they won't know who they are anymore. Like they'll just have this total breakdown if they lose it, like all their defenses, or like that their emotions will overtake them. Cause you know, emotions are scary things, right? Like how can you control your presentation if emotions are getting in the way? Like what if that shows on your face? What if people see that? What if people see that inner whatever? It's scary shit. It's really scary. And I think that's why a lot of people with NPD either drop out early from therapy or just don't show up because they don't
Yes,
even want to go down.
exactly.
They don't
That's
even,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, that
It's
patient I told you, he came, I think, 3 times and then he never came back. But it was
yeah.
good enough. It was good enough for me to learn something. I'm grateful for it. We still talk here and there, but
Uh-huh.
not doing therapy, just as a friend. But
Yeah. It's
yeah,
it's it's hard. And I feel like um I don't know. I feel like a lot of times I would have run away. I feel like the universe has put me on a really special path because like I wasn't allowed to run away. Like every time I said, no, I don't want to look inside myself. Like the universe would throw something in my path to basically like cause me another collapse. And then I would have to look at myself. And I
yes,
didn't have an option.
yes,
And I guess like whatever force of nature's out there watching all of us kind of knew I could handle it. So, you know, I was put through that for a reason. And I feel like I would love to teach people with NPD. It's not as scary
yes.
as you may think.
You're
To
already doing it. You're already
I
doing
hope
it. Yes, and it's great because I wasn't, I said I was so glad. I am so glad to be here with you. And I appreciate that because it's a chance for me to ask questions that I never could for the friends I had. And because they are not aware, they didn't allow themselves yet. And as you just said, maybe it's not about their choice. Maybe it's only God choosing here, this is your moment. So because you had that circumstance, how many times before, maybe because we all have circumstances in our life every day, right? Is one person saying something that will make, but you go, no, no, no. It's another day you see a movie or a situation in the family and you go like, no, 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 no. And but with this was to the bottom, right? It got you to the point that you couldn't, right?
you
And
couldn't run away. And here's the thing that's so sad is that I think that it's either way that you look at it, it's going to be really, really difficult for all these people with NPD. I either say there's like two options here. You either fight so hard to run away for the rest of your life, whether through drugs or you know, just not taking a look, not wanting to dig, not doing whatever, and you're going to live in the twilight zone of this
yeah,
disorder
it will never end,
forever.
right?
You're going to die. Like it is a sad there's good parts I feel like there's good parts and bad parts to everything. I'm learning that. But like for NPD, I feel like there are things like the resilience, the strength, you know, the confidence that I think can be very genuine. There's a split in the self too, you know, the vulnerable aspect of narcissism. And you know, if you have questions we can get into that too, but there's also really, really bad parts. And it's this awful choice between facing the pain that honestly for me sometimes has been so bad. I'm like, how am I still alive? This is crazy. Like in my worst collapses, like I'm like, this is some crazy, like this is not okay. No one should have to go through this. This is insane. Or you run away for the rest of your life, you never face it fully, but you live a life that's just so,
Yes.
oh god, like hollow, and it's not a fun choice. And I fucking wish the world would be kinder, just a little bit kinder to people with NPD. Like and not like if someone is abusing you, I want to make this very clear. No matter what diagnosis they have, you have the right to be angry and you have the right to remove yourself. However, the view that we take where we say evil rather than this person is a hurt person hurting people.
Yes.
When we
I
say
believe it's already happening, Tessa, because you opening yourself to do the other people, Brazilian people, they don't do that. Really rare, really rare. I don't see one. And
oh,
because in Brazil, oh my gosh, I think if they go in the streets, they're gonna be people will be. Here is different, but in Brazil, United States is different. But in Brazil, oh my goodness, I think people are afraid but it's gonna change. I believe it's gonna change.
I think it already is, and I'm so proud, not just of me, but of my community, because I don't know if anybody here has really seen, but there's this cluster B community that really is like online. It includes, Jacob, the nameless narcissist, for people who may have watched him. He's like a brother to me. He's so amazing and so strong. He's doing it too. Like, there's people who have finally, they finally couldn't run anymore. That was the first step. And then strong enough to turn around and face this. And it gives people a guide. Yeah. It gives, people who may even be partners of the people in this chat. Like, what if they found a reel of Jacob's or mine on social media, or somebody else in the community? It's like, hey, we're here too. You're not evil. You're misunderstood, acting out, the rage response. By the way, that's a PTSD fight response. You have PTSD. You probably have CPTSD. Yes. Can you, there's a space for you here. Come talk to me. And it gives the people it gives people a chance to have another like hope and path. And it's so needed, because so many narcissists, even self-aware ones, I'm not going to mention names, but there's people who have almost doubled down on their narcissism because they don't think there's a way out. They don't think there's a way out. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what, fine, I'm going to be a narcissist twice as hard. I'm going to go to therapy and learn to be an even better narcissist, because no one even cares about me anyway. Everyone thinks I'm evil anyway. There's no place for me here. So
let me tell you something about this, because I had one person came and talked to me from my channel, and we start chatting, and she said she was narcissist, and she said something to me, and then I said something to her, and she said, but what matters if I tell you that you're not gonna believe? You're not gonna. And I said, but who cares about what I'm gonna think or what people will think? What matters is about you. Is your life. Is what God thinks about you, because it's about your salvation. It's not about what I think. Who cares what people think? But I know why. Because
if we could just turn that off, none of us would have NPD.
Yes. It's not that easy, but
like, if we could just not care. But well, it's a sweet thought. And honestly, I feel like people like you are doing amazing work as well. So really, like, I wanted to tell you personally, like, keep up what you're doing. It is really, like, we need more people like that out in the world. But there needs to be like a space for people to feel, because like some people are really ready to go to therapy, and in a lot of sad cases, it's people who are very young too, like and they're lost, and they go to a therapist, and the therapist says, you can't have NPD, because you're self-aware. You can't have NPD because you don't fit my little box that is what a narcissist is apparently supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. You can't have NPD because you're not super grandiose. I mean, hey, have we talked about the vulnerable presentation at all? Like, no. And it's so frustrating to me to see, like, even members of my own community trying to get help. For real, they're ready. They're sick of living this way. They're sick of feeling like not alive.
You know what I think, what I believe. Yeah. I would love to do more talking with you if you allow, and we can, I am therapist. I want to learn, but we talk about later on. But I believe things happen for a reason.
I do too.
Because you're going through this and this, like, because you're gonna be the one. You're being prepared to be the one.
I would love to be. I mean, I feel like it's so crazy, because back in the day where I was like unself-aware, I was like, man, I want to be famous. I'm gonna be a famous singer. I'm gonna be a famous, artist. I'm gonna be a famous whatever. None of those things are happening. And so I was like, okay, fine. Here's my second choice. I guess I'll get famous for being a cluster B therapist, or like the pioneer or whatever.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I have so much more. There's so much more there for me now. Like, because part of healing from this disorder is you do come alive in little bits and pieces. And it's more than just, I want to be famous now. It's still that I want to be famous, but why? And I'm like, I want to help people. I genuinely, the most empathy I can have is for other narcissists. I know the pain personally. I have felt it. I've been screaming on the bed with it. I've seen the depths it's gone to. And by the way, you know, a lot of people with NPD don't show this outwardly, and that's another part where people are like, do narcissists even suffer? They just get mad. I mean, what's the deal with that? You know, like it's hidden underneath there, because why would you want to show people that? In your mind it's like, oh, they're not going to think I'm strong.
Yes.
So I'm going to save those moments for my private moments where I hate the world and I'm crying and like, you know, I'm hurt, but no one gets to see that, right? So people automatically assume, oh, they don't suffer. Absolutely not true. And I know that, and I want to help.
Yes, that's perfect. And I appreciate that. We need more people like that. Maybe you can motivate the people that you know in your group that they open channels too, and more people talking about it.
I'm so proud. I'm going to throw out some names. So, you know, NPD April, very good source. Obviously the Nameless Narcissist. Those are the people who are speaking out. It is scary. A lot of people had, like, there's another girl in my group who had NPD, has NPD. I don't know why I said had, but like, I don't think you ever fully recover or get rid of this disorder, but she was speaking out and then she shut it down because she felt too exposed. I mean, it's hard to attach your face to this with all the stigma out there. Some people just don't want to do it. So those 2 channels I listed, yeah, definitely check them out. Oh, there's Heal NPD, literally just Heal NPD. That's like another channel. I'm trying to think. Like
mental illness, you know, the Lee Hammock. I think it's another one.
Barking. Early morning barking. Yeah, he's got BPD and NPD.
They have channel on YouTube too. All of those.
Wait, what's that?
Channel on YouTube?
Or yeah, they all have channels on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah. But I think that there are people who are attempting to speak out and stuff, and I really do think that it's going to have this cultural shift eventually, where we may have you know, partners like that were narcissists, people who may even be in this chat, like their partners are suddenly getting help because they realize there's a path out of this. If people can't see a path out of suffering, they're just gonna either double down or deny or cope. You know what I mean? So people do have to step forward. And there's another issue here where I'm like, society needs to stop creating people with NPD, but we can go into that another time. I mean, yeah.
But I want to tell you something now that I keep thinking every time you talk about that, because I'll talk about the empathy, but before that, I want to try to leave it in this video to our side, because we have the ability, let me say, easier to us to understand your side, to understand your pain. I can see and I can, right, of course, it's never going to be what you feel, right? But I can understand a little bit what you're saying, and you know, but looking at our side now, okay, we get in a relationship and then the love bombing, and we have no idea what's going on in your head, that you put a person that we have to be in the world you create, right? So now we don't know, but you manipulate. You manipulate.
No, it's okay. Say it all. I won't judge.
Yeah, when I say you, it's not you, but you know the.
I've done shit in my day.
Yeah.
No,
the person you're there, so they manipulate you to love, appreciate, to give everything, to put in a pedestal, right? Everything seems to be fine, and then all of a sudden we don't even know what we did, and then the person is like looking at the person. My ex, he was I believe he was a sociopath, right? So he would, like, I would cry for not knowing why. He would look in the girls in the front of me, like in the face of my, and I would go like, is he doing this? Like, I feel he was in purpose to make me feel nothing.
I'm of the belief that most people, I'll say most, I'm never going to be brave enough to say nobody, but most people do not do things for no reason or with no emotion behind it. I feel like rage and triggered rage can present in so many subtle ways, where perhaps, let's just say you're out with a partner, they don't look mad, but in their head, for some reason, they're super bitter and they're in like this devalue mode where like you're all bad, right? You've been split, you're now all bad. They may check out people perhaps to make you jealous or to see, you know, is this person, instead of having to ask, you know, and be vulnerable and say, do you still love me? Are we good? Instead, you can test it. How fun, right? I'm making light of this, but like, you can see, do they still want you by seeing, like, if you were to, stray over here, will they pull you back? Or, whatever. Or maybe, people can just get, I find it so hard to believe that people just do things out of nothing. I think being triggered is a lot of the cause of why people with cluster B disorders act out, whether it's silent rage or like overt rage. Silent rage, though, is hard to understand, huh? Because it's like you see it on the surface, but that person's mad. They're trying to trigger you because for some reason they feel triggered and hurt, and they can't tell you. They can't be vulnerable,
Exactly. But that's the big thing, because now, let's just make the big picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trauma was there. The person now is upset, is angry, and now the person that did that to you, right? The person that caused the problem, it's not me. So now I'm paying for it, because
I know it's I'm not saying that it's a valid, okay, not valid. I'm not saying it's a healthy way to respond, but I think that it is a attempt to get needs met without being vulnerable, because you don't have to really have a heart-to-heart discussion with your partner. Instead, you can just kind of try to get them back in line in the way that you want and have the happy relationship you want in other ways where you're avoiding vulnerability. And I think that it's a big part of that. It's why we test people. I feel like I don't think it's only narcissists that test people. I think people who are afraid.
Yes.
Test people.
And the problem is because when you live so many years with the person that is not working on themselves, they are not aware. They are just putting their garbage, their pain, the other person.
Like bleeding over you. They're bleeding on you. It's
so we're carrying the pain that you guys should be doing what you're doing now, working on yourself. Because
I know.
Because that's why people get, like, I see people taking their lives away. I see people depressed. It's not.
It's sad. No, believe me, it's a tragedy on both sides. To address your side of things, absolutely, that should not be put on another person. That's not a healthy thing to do. And codependents have their own version of that. But God, it's fucked up to heal from this. I mean, I realized recently why I so often went towards rage with my partner, because or like one of my exes, because like when I was triggered by them, whether they said like something I thought was an insult or something, they didn't see me the way that I felt like I wanted to be seen, or whatever caused me stress and pain, and I needed them to resolve it. If I went straight to anger, it felt safe. Anger is such a safe emotion. It's a false sense of power. Like, it makes you feel like you're in control. Nothing can hurt you, and whatever. I, as part of my therapy, I can't do that anymore. Like, I can't just go to anger, because I no longer want to destroy. I don't want my defenses to destroy my relationships anymore. So, and notice how I like separated myself from my defenses. Key thing, we don't want to like have the shame of saying I'm a terrible person, I'm a fuck up. But I realized that when I didn't go to anger, I felt so scared, because it felt like I was giving the other person power. So it was like, it felt like a choice between either I get super mad right now and protect and defend myself through this fight response, or I sit there and I'm super exposed and vulnerable. And that's so scary, So like, I almost feel like it is such a tragedy that like people have to even get to this point, because narcissists need to stop. Everybody needs to stop, like, ideally putting their shit on other people, right? But to not do that, like, it almost like it feels like a choice between I put my stuff on other people, or I turn it inwards, and then I guess I fall apart. Like, it feels like a choice between those two things. And the thing I want to say is like, I wish I want society to stop. I want society to stop like pushing people to this point. Why are so many people now ending up with cluster B disorders. I mean, this is a predicament nobody should be in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, this is not.
And you being able to see this and explain this like this is amazing.
Am I doing good? I'm like, I need to know, am I making sense?
Yes, it's making a lot of sense, and it's amazing that you have this clarity to put it out and explain, because it makes all the difference for me as a therapist. It's helping me a lot to
Yeah.
understand. Thank you. But let me ask you something else. When you meet someone and you see they are narcissists, right? Sometimes you have to do tests, because like the ego test, I see my friend did that to the other friend I had, and she find out because she
Oh
has
no.
some control. She said, I don't like when I cannot read people. She told me that, and I had no idea what she's talking about. Now I know.
I don't know about that stuff. I'm always cautious of diagnosing people, where I'm like, we're over diagnosing people as narcissists now.
But I mean, when you meet someone that is the same, like you don't sense them, like somehow.
I can definitely sense when somebody has an ego defense, but that doesn't mean they're a narcissist. I mean, there's a spectrum here. Like, it's not narcissist or not. We have like a spectrum where
Yeah,
people
I'm not, don't take me wrong. Not in a, in not, I'm not putting
I feel like I want
label.
to. I feel like people want me to play into this fantasy where I'm like, I recognize narcissists on the street. Yeah, that's one right there. Like, you know, like,
No, because some people
I
that
don't know
on
about
the channel that they are narcissists. They say yes, we can know. I see one that she's a sociopath. Her name is Kanika
that.
Bab.
No, Kenny,
she's she's kind of sadistic, but she says things really honestly, like, oh, wow, that's exactly what it is, and she teaches people how to do what she does, but anyways, it's her channel. She does whatever she wants, but I learn a lot when I watch her videos, and I translate her videos.
thanks for all
Yeah,
in
because
this.
it's a confirmation about what we believe. And then she was what I was gonna say here. Um, I lost my point again. Oh my
I think you
goodness.
were trying to explain, like, do I sense other narcissists?
She
Like,
says she does testing with people. She fakes she's not well, and then to see how people will respond it. If they get like, oh, let me do, then she knows they have empathy. But if they show no empathy, then she does tests to find out if they are like her.
I'm gonna have to kill all the fun here and say that I'm not quite sure about that. I think that I would be very careful to put people in boxes. Let's just take a really easy example of this though. Autism and narcissism, two things that are different.
Say it again.
Autism and
Oh
narcissism.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did a podcast, or a YouTube video with Stephen Hilton. I don't know if anyone knows who he is, but he's this producer. He has ASD, basically, like autism. I don't want to like mess anything up when I'm saying that, but like, he can present as very similar to a narcissist in a lot of ways, that he gets defensive, or in a way that like people, with autism sometimes don't express empathy, I guess, neurotypically, or like in ways that people would like expect or whatever. And they can look on the outside a certain way, but like, it's so, what I'm trying to say, is that, sometimes people with different disorders or different neurodivergencies can look like a narcissist, or a narcissist can look like a borderline, or a borderline can look like whatever. And testing somebody, I don't know if it's the best.
What I'm saying, Tessa, is like let's say you figured out somebody is like you, has the same.
The outside to me does not necessarily is a dead giveaway for the inside. And I think people can end up I mean, like, when you're given, for example, a misdiagnosis, it can really complicate a lot of things. Like, we're used to in this world putting people into boxes, right? If you put somebody, go ahead.
Tess, I'm saying like this: you studying to become a therapist, right? A psychologist. So let's say somebody comes to you and you figure it out by asking questions, by doing therapy. So once you find out they have it, or even they can come and tell you right away if they already know, right? So or they are looking for treatment. So once you know that and you realize they have that condition, right?
I feel like that's different though. I feel like that's different with a therapist that's a qualified therapist than
Yeah,
somebody just like, here's one test to test if you're a psychopath, or like, here's a test to see if your friend's really a narcissist. Just say this
no,
one
no,
sentence.
no.
I'm like,
No,
ah,
no, my question is like, no, my question is like, once you find out, or someone, what do you think it will be the best approach to help them? Since trying to fix is not gonna work, we already know that, because what do you think it will be the best approach, the best way to help them, and to let them know in case they still don't know, but you already find out?
I know. Oh man, I knew that question was coming. And I also want to say, I understand people's need to like hope, that they can tell who a narcissist is and who isn't without them being diagnosed, because first of all, hard to get a diagnosis.
Yes.
And second of all, people are probably concerned. I mean, if they've been in a pattern of being with unself-aware people of any sort, they're probably going to be like, okay, I wish I could just mark down the people that I would like to avoid, that I just don't want to interact with right now. And people are looking for ways. But I would say, can you remind me one more time what you just asked? I just wanted to like tie a bow on that last topic.
Once you find out, let's say as a therapist,
How do you
let's
help
say
them?
you are a therapist already, and then you find out, or the person already told you. Let's see both situations, but let's say the first one you find out because you see, like, because once you have it, it's easier
How do you
to.
help them like realize it without triggering them? Or
Yeah,
like,
how
like
would you approach the patient to help them to? What would be the best approach in your opinion in that case to help that person?
it's complicated. I think every person is an individual. So some people actually come into therapy, telling you they have NPD or like suspect it, and that they may even be proud of it, and that's completely valid. Other people may feel shamed by being labeled such. So depending on your client, I would say some clients can heal a lot without ever really needing at the beginning, especially, to hear their diagnosis out loud. Sometimes that can be counterproductive. Sometimes it's helpful. And you'll kind of be able to suss it out. Like, does this person feel like having a thing to point to? Oh, I have this disorder. Like, does it help them make sense of it? Does it help them want to heal? Does it help them whatever? Then for that type of client, you might want to like approach that idea. For one that is super, super iffy about being like locked down or labeled, or maybe a client who feels like maybe you're trying to get a sense of power over them by, oh, I know your diagnosis, I know you better than you know you, like, or like, oh, I'm gonna like I had this fear when I go to therapy that if my therapists found out my diagnosis record, they would start using all these terms with me and putting me in boxes, and I would express myself and they wouldn't really trust what I was saying because, oh, well, if you have NPD, you must be like calculative and this and that and whatever. So there's a fear that some people have with that. So I think that I don't know, like, let's just say it's one of those clients and it doesn't feel like they would take it well, or a partner. There's ways to get people to start to face their behaviors and to heal without giving them labels that may scare the shit out of them or like be counterproductive. Like, for example, saying a lesser diagnosis, like I believe every cluster B has CPTSD at their core. So saying like, hey, you look like you have been struggling with like complex trauma. Like you look like you have CPTSD. What things have like come up for you about that? And you slowly can build trust in that way, where maybe someday, yeah, you can tell them, hey, you're a narcissist. I was thinking this the entire time. No, I'm just kidding.
How was it for you when they told you were there and they told you, like, how was your reaction?
The first time it felt like, oh my God, I've been through every phase in the book about my diagnosis. The first time it was suggested to me I had a cluster B disorder and that it was like narcissistic. I felt like I was being told something was wrong with me, which is obviously super triggering. Like, oh, you're a terrible person, or like, it's basically it's become the terrible person disorder, unfortunately. Or it kind of just sounds like you're being told you're super selfish, which is like super offensive. If your image of yourself isn't that, because I believed, oh my God, I used to have the most massive victim complex. It was embarrassing. But, I really felt like I would be the type of person who would like listen to a friend and be like, I am such a good listener. My God, like I'm such a good friend. And I don't think I was even listening. I don't know. I was like, I'm such a nice friend. So I was not happy. But after that, no, it's funny. I just have to laugh now. I really do. It's been a lot. But
you said something that remind me about the I'm
sorry,
sorry, when you talk about autism, because autism is a neurological condition different than narcissist, right? So that's one thing that I study too, because it's something that I already had to study for personal reasons, but it's kind of for me it's very like interesting. Even when they put in a cluster B, they put borderline together, and I go, but borderline is totally the opposite, in my opinion. As I, why I study about it.
From NPD, I would say there's definitely distinct differences, but I have a borderline in my group chat. I love her, but we're like it feels like we're cluster siblings. Honestly, I think there's also like, oh, they do this the exact opposite way, so there's that. But yeah, it's super fascinating. And to continue, I did want to finish. Like, I wanted to make sure I answered your question, but like I went from feeling like with my diagnosis, I was being told there was something wrong with me, to feeling pride. Where I was like, this was the day I discovered that it's like a lot of studies claim it's 0.05 to 1% of the population. And I was like, oh my God, this is literal proof I'm rare. Never mind, I don't mind having this disorder. This is great. This is great. Wow. So it was all good. I literally split on my own disorder. It's so embarrassing, but like it was all good. And then when I was suffering really bad, when I kept having more collapses, it was like, I hate this. I wish my brain was never this. I wish I was never born this way. And it was like, I couldn't see any good in it. I was just like, I would rather not do this anymore. I'm tired of living this way. I'm tired of the daily fight. I'm tired of the suffering. And I finally got to a point where I can see both the good and bad in it, where I'm like, okay, some of these traits have served me really well. Others I can see like I've suffered a lot. I would rather not deal with that. And I still have pride in some points, but it's not enough to be like idealizing my own disorder, which is a strange place to be. But it really is a mental illness in all honesty. And I think that like it means that you have to seriously take a look at your own brain and implement, like you have to reality check, like, because people think like projection is calculative. I'm not saying it can't ever be, but a lot of the times I remember having a conversation with my ex, and he was like screaming at me saying like, look, you like, please listen to me, Tessa, you are literally basing everything you're saying off of a fantasy. Like, I have not done any of these things. You are acting off of something that's not happening. And in my head, it was really happening that way. And I could not see reality. So like, I've actually learned, disturbingly enough, that I have to reality check myself. I have to like, I've been lucky enough to find people who I actually trust more than I've ever trusted somebody. I'll say that.
Is that you gaslight your own self?
Oh God, yeah. And then you gaslight other people, because why wouldn't you? That's the reality you believe. I'm sorry, that was so casual, but that's the reality you believe. Of course you're going to tell other people. Hell, I remember getting told that I was gaslighting, and I was like, no, you're gaslighting me. Like, what are you talking about? And I don't know, like, it's so scary. And your brain is going to constantly want to do those black and white splits, because when I realized for the first time genuinely that my perception was off sometimes, like where I wasn't perceiving something correctly, like where maybe the person had never really insulted me, or maybe they were just doing it for some reason I couldn't see, or maybe this thing that happened wasn't about me and it said nothing about me or my worth or anything. I lost my mind because I felt like I was like, I can't trust anything. Like, and I realized I had like so much more in depth of a fear. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm always right, because like I'm whatever, like, the egotistical, like there is that part to it, but there's also a fear. If I'm not right, I'm always wrong. I can't perceive reality correctly. Like I'm defenseless. I'm whatever. Like there's a scary duality where I feel like to get somebody with NPD to realize that they are not always right
Wow.
There's another level of fear where you might actually find them collapsing right after that and believing that they have no grasp on reality, because that's how the brain works. It wants to split it. It's the hallmark of every cluster B disorder. Like the defenses may vary, whatever, between a borderline, between an antisocial personality, between a narcissist, but overall, we cannot see, like, it's either all one thing or none of it. Like, I'm either going to be an absolute success and I believe it 100%, or I'm going to be an absolute nobody and I'm going to die a nobody. You know, and I wonder if you've ever heard your clients ever express something like that. I don't know if they've ever been able to be vulnerable like that, but I'm curious.
No, and I don't remember anything to tell you, like, because it wasn't too long. One of them never said he was until the end. Yes, he kind of said he was. The other one came telling me right away, and he was really nice. He was really open, like you, telling me, things. Another thing that I thought was very interesting, and I want to catch up on you pretty soon with that. They
Yeah.
were talking on their live about talking about you don't feel like you don't like to be called as a human being. You don't feel like a human being.
Oh my god.
I was like, what
Wow.
is that?
I feel so exposed. This is terrible. Because yeah, well, do you want to go into that now or later?
Yeah, you can. I was gonna go first, but it's up to you. You choose. But I also want to know about um,
I
the phase of hoovering. Yeah, I want to understand this game.
Wolverine. Oh man, do I have a discussion for that? I actually witnessed. Okay, so first of all, we all know I hate the terminology, but because in my mind I was like, come on, like, isn't hoovering just like trying to get back together with your ex? I mean, how many people do that? Like, so many. I'm sure that there's a way that people think narcissists do it. I don't know, but like, I recently witnessed. Oh God, Jacob's gonna hate me. Okay, so my friend Jacob, the nameless narcissist. I'm gonna expose him here a little bit. He told me, he was like, we were having trouble. Like, there's a lot of hidden anxiety with NPD. It's very commonly comorbid. In fact, I've never met a narcissist that doesn't have anxiety and depression. They kind of go hand in hand. But he was like, I think I'm just gonna reach back out to this old person because it's so much harder to, like, do this whole thing again. I mean, like, it's like there's little safe spaces for us now. That's like a different vibe, isn't it? Than like, I guess what do people think on the other side? Could you let me know? What do people think when they say, oh my God, they're hoovering? Or like, what is that? Do you think it's calculated?
Yeah, I like to understand because let's say you get to the devaluation, like the person is not being the person you wish, and now you say no, it's not me that is not good. He is the bad one. I don't want him anymore, so I don't want him anymore. I'm gonna get this one that is good, right?
Well, it's easier to, because like you've already been through the ringer with these people, and I am very
maintain there because you already know how to right.
It's just I think that, like, in a way there's a lot more ease and a lot less anxiety to go back to the people that you've already been through shit with. Maybe subconsciously there's the thought that, like, oh, they were already accepting before of like this and this, so they'll be again, which is not necessarily, I wouldn't say that that's the healthiest thing I've ever said, but like, I think that it's there's also the possibility of re-idealizing somebody. If you have an unself-aware person who can't yet take people off a pedestal and just try to view everybody rationally, and they have these ups and downs, you're either great or shit. You can see one of your old exes and genuinely, maybe they hit the gym, maybe they're like got a new job, maybe they're like, they look cute, and you just remember all the good memories, and all of a sudden, oh my God, it's been so long. I remember all those good times with this person. I gotta reach out. Maybe that's still possible to have something there. It's like this re-idealizing where that person's back on the pedestal, where they're back as like a possibility of like whatever. Unfortunately, I always caution people, like, when going back because like it sucks because like both narcissists and codependents can get trauma bonded to each other. So like on either end, I've seen narcissists want to go back to their partners because they're trauma bonded. I've seen obviously codependents wanting to go back to their partners with narcissistic traits. And I'm just like, okay, if the person is not in therapy, if they haven't been serious about healing, who do you really feel like you're going back to? I mean, what will be really different? This person hasn't really done any self-reflection, you know, like, I always wonder sometimes, like I always caution people to ask, like, even though you miss this person, even though you may have genuinely loved them, if they have not done any new steps, if they're not like really taking a look at themselves, it is very likely it's going to be the same dynamic between you guys again. And so, you know, I tell people that. I also try to not paint hoovering as such a diabolical act because I think it's more complicated than just I'm gonna reel this person back in and suck the soul out of them or like whatever. We all have needs, right? I mean, I've seen some narcissists reach back out to an ex because the ex had a group of friends, and they were feeling like they didn't have enough friends to keep their sense of self intact. And like, so, you know, if I get this connection back with this old person, then I can have a group of friends again, and then I'll feel okay because my sense of self is external, you know, and that's how I need to stay put together. And yeah, sure, to one end, that is manipulative to some extent, or it is like it's transactional, I would say. But I mean, narcissists are in a very complicated position where like being vulnerable feel like death, and you still have needs. You still want to like somehow get some sort of substitute of connection. I mean, or else you'd really die, right? So like that's where it gets all kind of crazy, where like
how you really die?
I mean, everyone would die without connection. Put a human in like a solitary room, they would go crazy. I mean, like you have to have something. Narcissists are too traumatized to have the real connection with people. So they replace it with like attention. They replace it with like less scary things. Like attention is so replaceable. It is the most replaceable thing ever. Like you don't really truly have to rely on anybody. You don't have to really let anybody in. Any person can give you that little high. And it's such a safe, it's a safe feeling when you're not yet ready to heal, when you're not ready for like the true risk of saying this person matters to me. If I lost them, if they rejected me, if something happened, I would be seriously hurt. That's like really scary. And I feel like a lot of times when you've been through so much trauma already, your sense of self really can't take that. Like I wonder sometimes if it wouldn't end in suicide. I wonder sometimes if we know that deep down, so we shell up because we're like, no, we're not. This is the last time I'm being hurt. I can't handle it anymore. I can't handle it anymore, you know? But then you have to have something. So people look for attention. People look for substitutes, like something that can still make them feel good, something that still kind of feels like love, something that still kind of feels like connection, but it's not. It's not really, you know?
Do you feel joy, like joy of living or no?
That's a complicated one. Like it depends. I have felt so vindictively happy leaving somebody who I had painted all black and I was very angry at them. And to be honest, they were also not really healthy. And I think that this person in particular was very toxic, but so was I. I think that like how it ended, how so many of my relationships have ended, unfortunately, is like I never want the other person to move on because it means I'm forgettable. It's like if they find someone else and they're happy, it's like my worst fear. And I'm trying to work through that in therapy right now. Like literally I'm working through that right now because I don't know how to stop. Like I keep exes in orbit because like to me, if they move on with someone else, it's like telling me you were forgettable. You weren't best. You weren't good enough. You weren't great enough to be memorable. And that is something that is such a trauma point for me. Like being invisible, being forgettable, being replaceable is like something I don't know.
But at the same time, Tessa, I'm sorry.
It's
At the
okay.
same time, even if the person stays there for you, you still feel the same as if they don't, because in deep inside, you know it's a fraud, right? Because you know what I mean?
Um,
A fraud in a sense because you create this person, right? You copy. That's something you talk in other life that caught my attention too, about this famous lady that you focus on her, like
yeah.
the dog. We got the dog.
So many cluster bees. Oh my God. That's the cluster bee like book right there is like just the absolute need to have some sort of identity and copy it. Some people copy it directly from their partners. I've never been one to do that. I had a very specific idea of who I wanted to be, and yes, it was based on celebrities, and I would literally mimic them, and that's a disturbing thing to get into, because once you've done that long enough, I think when you were going with the fraud tangent, were you trying to get me to like explain like how is that?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand because you said the if the person goes with somebody else, move on, right? With somebody
Okay.
else, that's the biggest fear for you because you will feel like you don't matter, right? But you still, if that person is there, you still deep inside feel you don't matter. You matter, but I'm saying you would feel you don't
Oh,
matter
you feel it.
because it's not you there, right? It's like it's somebody that you copy from somebody else. So
Oh, man. Oh, God, that's a difficult topic. That's the deepest point. I don't know how to heal that one yet. Because, yeah, okay. I think what you're trying to say is like, you're still not really like letting yourself be known, or like, how are you really mattering if it's the outside that matters to this person? I mean, that's my worst fear. That's so many. That's
I'm
like,
just, I'm not saying, trying to say anything like, this is it, this is it. No, trying
well,
to,
I've been lucky enough. I've been lucky enough to have people literally tell me to my face, I like the emotional Tessa, the one that I've seen more than anything else that you've put on the outside, that you've showed me on the outside. I'm so fucking blessed. I think every person deserves to hear that. I think every person, especially people with NPD, deserves to have somebody tell them that, because it's the first step to healing. But people have literally told me, because I would have a breakdown in my group chat or whatever, now that I don't have as many of my defenses, I'm a lot more in the low aspect of things. And afterwards, I would be like, no, I hate all of this. Like, I wouldn't want to come back to the group chat. I felt humiliated. I would be like, they saw this side of me that like, it wasn't the side that I should be, that I wanted as part of my image. Like, and then they would literally tell me, and bless their heart, seriously, they would literally tell me that like, we love that side. We like the exposed Tessa, like that she's strong, she's brave, she's powerful, she's admirable. And I was like, no, what the fuck are you saying? And then they're like, no, I really mean it. And it's retrained my brain, because I sometimes I don't know what they're saying still, but like, you know, like it's one of my worst fears was for the longest time, and to some extent still is, that people will always love the outside more because it's so polished, because it's so, you know, like everything inside's gonna mess that up, right? That's how it wants to go in your head. Like, oh, everything inside's just gonna make it messy and like embarrassing, and you're not gonna look smooth and charismatic and admirable. And it's been the hardest and longest part of my healing journey. I'm still in that right now.
yes.
Where like, yeah, go ahead.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I love to hear that because it's a process that we all go through. Everyone has their different time, right, in evolution. But you there, that's what matters. You allow yourself, you being chosen, I believe. Everything happens for a reason, and it's a bigger purpose. And I am so grateful, as I said.
Yeah.
But what I was saying about this is about the emptiness, the the emptiness, and going to the thing that I was talking before. You saying something that you don't want to see the person moving on. Do you feel they are your property? Like
Oh my
they're
God.
always for you?
There's
And also the human being, not seeing yourself as a human being. Tell me about that,
Well,
please.
here's yeah, we'll do both. I mean, just taking the human being aspect, it's hard to see. I already mentioned this, but it's hard to see people as human beings. It's hard to look at a person. I've had weird moments. I'm sure everyone here is going to think I'm insane, but I've had moments where I just realized that like the lady in the car next to me at Safeway putting her groceries away has her own entire story and like feelings and like life and like soul, and I'm like, what the fuck? So like in that way it has become at certain points in my life really easy to see people as, I don't want to use the word property, that is a scary word to me, but it does feel like it's like that's mine, like it's a person. God damn it. It's a person. It's crazy. I get anxiety too. I don't know why. It's really fucked up. I don't know why this happens to me. Like, if that's not a sign of how messed up I am, but like I get anxiety realizing that people are actually real people with feelings. I don't know why, but like when that's off in my brain, it does kind of feel, it's very hard to see anything other than like, what is the role they play for me? What is the role they play in my life? How did they make me feel? If moving on makes me feel bad, they can't. I don't want them to, but we're working on that. I'm not doing anything actively either. I'm just trying to really dig into why I have to do that. What can I replace it with? And that's a hard thing about healing with NPD, because I'm of the belief that you can't just tear a narcissist's defenses away, because I feel like that's basically suicide. Like, you can't just leave somebody exposed. It's about like taking the maladaptive behavior and then replacing it with the healthier one. So like, what need, I would ask myself, like, what need am I getting met by keeping this person in my orbit? How can I find that need? How can I meet that need elsewhere in my life so I can let go? I don't know yet, but I've done it with several other things. And like, it's a very powerful thing to do, because you start having to go less and less to these things that hurt other people, or like yourself even. Like, I mean, one of the things that I feel like I realized becoming spiritual was I was terrified of karma. Like, I was like, I don't want to be bad. Like, the universe was beating the shit out of me. Like, all these things it would throw at me. And I was like, well, I'll be good. Like, I'll stop. Like, just so what, like, this doesn't happen. Like, I hate this. I don't want this anymore. I'm tired of the drama. Like, so I've genuinely gotten to the place where I want to replace these behaviors. I'm tired of them. But it's fulfilling something. And as for the person, well, we already kind of went into that. What was the other thing? Like, viewing people as props in your life. Props is a better word. It's like, what do they bring to my life? What role? They're like the background characters, it feels like, a lot of the time, but like, what was the other question? Like,
it was that you explained good. I understand a lot, makes sense for me. I wrote some stuff here that I might, if you have time a little bit more, I can ask you.
go for it.
Let me see. Most of this stuff, maybe, my glasses are here. I don't see without glasses anymore. So, okay. I was watching the video that you did the other live, and I wrote down some stuff here. You said, I had a lot of pain, and I wanted to feel better. I hate the world. Something you say in the other.
Oh God. I don't really feel like that's unjustified right now. I feel like I have extra hatred that maybe most people don't have because of the way I grew up. And hatred for people where, like, literally, oh God, in my worst moments, I have had some really dark thoughts about like people, oh, I don't know. We won't even go into that, but like the state of the world, I feel like, is something that I would say I almost genuinely hate, because we're in a very weird time in society where we have things that we didn't have before. Like, technology is progressing, individualism is a thing now. Everyone can express themselves. There's like these movements, and that's all good. But we are the loneliest fucking society ever. Like, we are a society that's genuinely like creating more and more traumatized people. I mean, there's like, it's a mess. I feel like there's so much information now that we have access to that we don't know what to listen to anymore. I think it's confusion. Like, it's a time of confusion. I think it's a time of like, I'm worried for future generations. I'm wondering, like, I wrote a song recently about this where one of my lyrics was like, I'm a product of society. How many more are going to end up like me? Like, that's like that's a thing I literally like have realized is like, narcissists in a way are like the absolute, like, conform, like, we feel like we all feel to some extent like we have to conform to society's standards to be worthy. I don't know. I don't think it's a good, like, the logical side of me, there's like the ego side of me, which I don't want to address, but the logical side of me says that doesn't feel right. And I think, in in these generations that are now growing up with like TikTok and like all these like societal standards shoved in everybody's faces, I wonder how many people how many more people's kids are going to end up like this? How many more people's, like, I hate the world. I always said, I wish I didn't exist in this this era. Like, things are not really good right now with mental health, you know, and like things in general. Those are just my thoughts on it, though.
Yeah, I see your point, but I also see the other side, you know, because in the world, yes, it is evil. It's in the Bible, and it's gonna get worse until Jesus comes back, in my belief, right? But
Yeah.
God says in His Word, renew your mind. Do not conform with the things in this world. Do not conform with that,
We gotta
because
have some brave people. We gotta have some brave people. A lot of people are lost. And I think that some really brave people are gonna have to step up and be like, you know what? This is not how things should be. There should be more sense of community.
yeah,
There should be so much less shaming going on. I mean, you want to know the number one way to create a narcissist? That's it. You know, right there. Just shame your children, or like hold them to crazy standards, or let the world hold them to crazy standards. I mean, we're to the point where, like, you know, I'm just going to speak on women right now, but like women are held to some standard with their looks that doesn't even exist. I mean, people are using filters, and somehow now that's the standard of like how a woman should look. That's not even real. Like, what have we done? Like, where are we going with this? And like, that's just one aspect of this stuff. I don't know. I feel like it's going to take a lot of brave people to come forward and be like, this needs to, like, people need to knock it off. Like, this is not how the world should be. I worry about how many people are going to end up with more cluster B disorders because of this stuff.
and everywhere we go, Tessa, everywhere we go, it's good and bad, right? Everything. You go to the supermarket, you can get food there that will make you feel better and healthier. But if you eat all the junks, it can kill you, right?
Yeah.
If you eat junk, every single, but it's there. It's in the supermarket, right? But it's your choice, right? You choose. So everything is a choice in life, and we have free will to choose and
That's
move
true.
on.
Yeah, I believe that. I just think people are so lost. It's hard not to be, you know? Like, I feel like people want to make those choices, but they don't even know where to start. You know, that's why we got to guide people. Like the work that you're doing, for example.
And you know what is the best? Yeah, the best guidance for me, the is the Word of God, because there is the manual of instruction how you can survive this world. Because God teaches you how to have the shield, you know, from Him, which will protect you from this world. Otherwise, it will come into your mind, and you will believe in that, and then it can destroy you. But the truth sets you free, right? But let me see what else I wrote it down so I can
Yeah.
ask you.
Yeah,
Um,
and we've been going for a while now too. This has been really
yes,
nice.
yes,
I'm like, whenever you want to go get some food, you know,
yes,
we can talk about doing other lives if you want.
yes, we can. I
And
would
I'd love to know, yeah, like how people thought of this. I haven't
yes.
even
Oh, you want me to see if they have any questions here for you?
sure,
I can
yeah.
put, there's a lot of comments here. Let me see. Let me go back all the way up.
I haven't even looked at them. I'm protecting my ego right now. I'm like, I don't want to see anything bad. If
I
it's
know this live.
there,
No, no. Do not worry about that, because I know it's gonna be a lot of people watching that for sure. But because most of my followers, they are Brazilian, and this live now is not being
I won't
translated.
understand when I'm being
They
insulted.
don't understand. But I'm gonna translate everything, and then
Okay.
after that, everybody will watch it. You will see. But anyways, a
Thank
lot of
you.
people. Oh my gosh, you went down so fast. Everybody's saying good night, good night, good night. Um,
Oh, they think we're ending. Yeah. Well, we're taking questions now, but I wanted to say thank you. If anyone can understand, like me, with you know,
that's so nice.
thank you for showing up. Yeah, I tried.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Tessa. So a lot of people saying good night, good night, good night. Okay. Um,
Great where you guys are
let
at.
me
I
see
don't
a
know.
question here. Let me see if they put questions here. She said you could put the legend here in Portuguese. I don't think I can do it now, but I can try it later because I don't have the option here. Maybe on YouTube, I would do that for sure, so you guys can understand everything. Somebody said congratulations for the wonderful live and company.
Oh,
Uh-huh. And yeah, they say I'm gonna translate it later. Yes. Um,
yeah.
Oh, one person is asking if you thought about changing your attitudes after being diagnosed.
Um,
Diagnosed.
I'm curious what attitudes, I suppose, like towards, you know.
Yeah, let's say those that are hurtful to others. Like now that you can, you still don't feel empathy. Nothing, a little, some.
Well, I always say it's impaired for a lot of people with NPD. For me, it's definitely impaired. But I would say that I've been able to experience for the first time, like being hurt and someone was actually there who cared. And that was life changing. I feel like part of the reason I was so unempathetic and so bitter for so long was that I was like, well, why would I care about anybody? No one ever cared about me. Like, fuck them all, blah, blah, blah. All this negativity where, like, I actually have friends that accept me now for my disorder, for who I am besides my disorder. Like, for, like I have a good boyfriend. I have like support in my life. It's just crazy where like I've been softening up a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
I've been softening up a little bit. I'm still pretty on guard. I still get moments where I'm very, very apathetic, but it's going somewhere. And I feel like I've expanded my care towards, like, I have like an inner circle that's bigger. Like I used to just care about myself. Now I care about myself and a few other people where like it's like, oh, I've got your back. Like I think that it's not even about the inability to have empathy or to not like to the inability to care as much as it is so hard to hold on to it. And yeah, just to rehash one more time about the fragmentation, I could literally one day say to somebody, I don't want to hurt you, I respect you, and then 3 days later for some reason I don't respect them anymore and I don't care. Like, I don't know how to be consistent. I don't know why I'm so fragmented, but I could believe with all my heart, I could want with all my heart not to hurt somebody in my inner circle, and then it still happens because I'm disconnected from the piece of me that said I didn't want to hurt them, and that piece is out of commission. Who knows where it is, and I'm dissociated from it, and now there's this other piece that doesn't care about them. So that's been the hard part for me, and I'm still struggling with that every day. And I think that, like, I think the answer is really to like integrate all those pieces. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to see where I can go with it and how I can bring other people, because if you have all those pieces together, you are viewing the world as a whole. And somehow I kind of believe there would be a lot less fluctuation between I love you and you're nothing to me. Like, like it would be kind of like cohesive and a lot more controlled. And it's been the bane of my existence when I'm actually trying at this point to care about people, like consistently, to literally like not be able to do it consistently. Like my brain just betrays me on that front. Like I can't hold on to that stuff. But I think I'm gonna get there. I really.
Yes. About when you talk about karma, right? So let's say if you have thoughts and you want to do something, and would you control yourself thinking, maybe if I do that, might be back to me twice? Maybe.
Yes, I have. I actually have. This is just my personal belief system, but when I had my near-death experience, I was so scared and I couldn't stop thinking about death and like the idea that none of my achievements would matter and whatever. And I was raised agnostic for an explanation. My father, my mother, they're very much like nothing exists outside of the body. And that traumatized me. And I was able to see another side of it where I was like, I leaned into spirituality for the first time. Wow. And I grappled with the concept of being reincarnated and like having a soul and an existence. And yeah, along with that kind of came the idea that like, maybe I want to be a little bit more careful if I would like less drama in my life. And I'm tired. I'm very tired. I've been through too much. I feel like I've lived 5 lifetimes of pain and I'm tired and I don't want to do it anymore. So sometimes an opportunity will come up where I'm like, I kind of really, the worst parts of me right now just want to do this and take advantage of this. But I'm kind of too scared. Like, I don't want to do it. I'm trying to not do that. And I've made the choice. Like, a really simple example of this was, oh God, there was this guy that was willing to hang out with me for the longest time for like money. He would pay me to hang out with him. And like, I would basically lead him on, like, and I was telling him like all these things. And I started realizing that's probably not what I want to do with my life. And I started wondering, okay, you know what? Like maybe I was trying to do sessions at the time, and obviously I have like a discount for narcissists. But it makes decent money, but I wasn't getting any sessions. And it was so interesting that when I made the choice to stop going out with this guy for money and taking his money and lying, and getting I was getting attention out of it. I was getting money out of it. Those things made me feel good temporarily. But then I was like, I just decided, what if I just stopped because I'm scared of karma? And all of a sudden when I stopped, more and more people, I was worried I would have like no things that I wanted, but more and more people, suddenly like the amount of people that were booking sessions with me went up. It was like a positive reward for making the right choice. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was like,
yes, it does, totally. That's how it works.
Beautiful, because like I'm still receiving money, but from something that I'm actually like becoming very passionate about, and something healthy, like I'm helping others out of it,
Yes.
like that's a different vibe. And it was a beautiful thing. And I was like, that's interesting how when I made the choice to not do the bad thing, or like the whatever, this other avenue started opening up for me. Yeah.
Taking advantage of others, right? You can do on your own. You have the capacity to do that. So why?
It's so much more. Yeah. And it feels so much better. I mean, like, it feels so much better inside. I don't know how to make that make sense, but like, I didn't know I could feel this way. And like, now that I do, it's like, oh man, like, wow.
It's amazing that you said that your parents always say something to you and you came out of that and you allow yourself to believe in something other than that, and they help you.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying. There's some days where like, I almost wonder if this isn't an NPD thing, but there's I think there was an article on this about like narcissists being over analytical, but like a lot of parts of my brain tell me, well, there's no evidence for this stuff. So it's hard for me to have faith. And I've been raised on evidence. So my parents also put that in my head. And I'm like, I know, I really want to.
It's a process. You're going to be there. Just don't give up. But you're gonna see more and more things, more and more confirmation, and you will know you are in the right path, and the faith will come from God, because He's the one that gives it to us. Another thing, when you got your diagnosis, your mom and dad, what was their reaction? And
I didn't tell them. No, they don't, because it's my medical records. So like where I live, I'm in California, by the way. There's like you have to, you can hold your medical records. Nobody gets to see them unless you give permission. They asked and I said no. But here's the thing, they kind of found out anyway a little bit. I think they had a guess. Like my parents are pretty smart. I mean, they're really smart. They gave me a lot of intelligence. I'm just gonna be honest.
Like, do you remember when you were a child, like were you jealous of your brothers somehow? Did you ever make them in trouble and like telling your mom, I didn't do anything, they did it, or something like that?
Yeah, I wish there's always a normal sense of that. I think in every family, but unfortunately my family was super competitive. So yeah, very much so. And yeah, I think I've had like, I enjoy like the smarts I've been given. I'm going to be honest, because like it allows me to just get my way out of things. It's either a power that can be used for good or very, very bad things. And when you're using it for good things, I think it's very powerful. But yeah, I've been on quite a journey. And I think that, as you said something so well, which was like, just keep on this path and it will come to you, and that's what I'm really hoping for.
Yes. Let me see what else I have here for you.
Yeah.
If you like to go to the bathroom or eat something, be comfortable, I don't care. I will have to go to the bathroom pretty soon, but you let me know if you need to be done. But I have a few more questions here. Let me see if other people.
We can answer probably like 2 or 3 more, and then I think we can always
do another one. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it feels good to know that like everyone enjoyed that.
Yeah, Louis is asking, I would like to know if narcissists, they are used to invalidate the victim and after copy what they do.
I'm trying to understand that.
Like, let's say you are with someone and you say, you're doing that. I don't think that's nice. I don't like these clothes, or I don't like this place or this music. And then all of a sudden you're doing the liking it, doing the things that
Oh no, the hypocrisy.
you.
Being an absolute hypocrite, that's what I'm best at. No, I'm just kidding.
But why? What is the reason behind that?
Oh my god. Oh geez. I have to really dig into that one. That's one I haven't wanted to dig into. I feel like, well, I think part of it is the inconsistency within the identity, where it's like some people have said there's another version of this where their cluster B partner will be with them and they act one way, and then all of a sudden they're with a new person and they look totally different, or like they act totally different, and they say they like the things they said they hated, and it's like, who is that? Like, who is I with? That's just identity issues, really. I mean, I feel like, but the hypocrisy thing, oh, this is not going to be a pretty answer. This is why I avoid this answer.
You're so honest. I like that because you know what it is, right?
Yes, I do. I think my brain doesn't
When
want
you
to.
say hypocrisy,
I think it's entitlement. Entitlement is a symptom of NPD. I think that what is allowed for one is not allowed for others because, and it used to go in my head like this. Well, I've done so much hard work on myself. I've literally reinvented myself. I've perfected myself. I've done all this. I deserve the best out of life because of that. And, I deserve to do whatever I want because of that. And like, for others, maybe that standard doesn't apply. It's like,
that's very, very clear what you're saying. It's truth. I see
yeah,
that. Yeah.
And there's something about, and I think that like, I want to believe that people with NPD can reach remission. I think since it is a mental health issue and a mental disorder, I think that like saying you can totally cure NPD is kind of ambitious. But I think that like you can get into a point where like these things are not happening as much. However, I feel like, I don't know, like this is gonna sound really bad, but like no matter how many collapses I've had, no matter how many things have tried to humble me, there's still that goddamn grandiosity that's like in there. And I don't know what to do with it, really. I think that there's almost, this is rarely talked about, but I think that there's like a healthy way to be narcissistic. I think there's a healthy narcissism that like people can have, a healthy confidence, let's say, like, but once again, I think that like instead of demonizing those things, it's only like when people get out of whack that causes problems. You know what I mean? Like, I think right now people are on the rage saying like, you're not allowed to be grandiose. That's bad. You're not allowed to be narcissistic at all. That's bad. You're a monster. It's whatever. These are natural traits. This is a natural part of the human experience to have these traits. It's like, how much do you have? Is it getting in the way of your ability to have relationships that you might want to have? Like, is it whatever? What were you going to say?
But if you have a choice, if you could choose to make it different and be like us, would you try? Would you like to try and see how it was?
Do you want my honest opinion? Oh no. Okay. This is a complicated answer. I kind of like being the unicorn in the room. I'm gonna be honest. Where it's like, oh, you're a narcissist. That's fascinating. Tell me. Let's have you on a live stream. Tell me about what's that like. But on the other hand, I am tired of being lonely, and this is the loneliest disorder. So I think that if I it's been one of the hardest parts to heal from. Like, I always want to think there's some in between, some middle. I mean, in my craziest moments, I was like, I'm not only going to heal from being a narcissist, I'm going to ascend on another level of like existence. And that still doesn't involve being with everybody else in the room, like, as I said, like the analogy of being behind the glass, watching everyone else on the other side. Do I really want that? I think I would want it if I could keep my sense of, I think a lot of the wounds I have are pretty deep. I don't know if I'm ever going to not want to feel special because I felt so invisible for too long. I think those scars will always be there, but I don't know. I hope that there's some middle ground that I like stumble across, where I feel, where I can be on that but I don't feel like I have to lose everything, that I still feel important, that I still feel special. You know?
Do you feel special?
Huh?
Do you feel special?
I feel like you're testing me.
No.
I mean, honestly, I feel like not a lot of people are given this path in life, and there's a reason for it, and that may or may not be because of my capabilities, which is a very guarded way of saying yes, I do. But I think that I want to use that for a good thing. That's what I think. Yeah.
You are special. For me, you are. Because
Really?
yes, of course you are. You're here helping, you're here willing to talk about your vulnerability. Say it. Vulnerabilities. Ah.
Yeah, and honestly, I wanted to tell you, like, I seriously think you're doing such good work. The fact that you're a therapist that can show up for these clients, that is a rare thing. We need so much more of that, and I really respect the way you do it. I really respect it, and like, yeah, that. Oh my God, I hope that
When,
that is.
when I talk about the special that I ask you, because I remember when I had that patient, I told him all the things, the good things I saw in him that I really see because he had those qualities, right? And he opened a big,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
opened a big smile and he said, "Thank you." And I said, "But if you don't feel that for yourself, about yourself, and no
That's
matter what I tell you, it's going to be just for a second and then it's going to go away. But when you believe that deep inside, without anybody telling you, by, only God,
that's the dream.
then
That's a dream. Just can you? Oh my God! Like imagining waking up and just knowing that would be nice. I feel like every day is a reset where you got to go figure it out again and like ask everybody around you, are you still great? Are you still charming? Are you still whatever? It's like it's very exhausting.
for God, you always gonna be, we always gonna be, but for people, no. That's why when we put on people, we get frustrated, and that's how we suffer. That's why people suffer when they get in relationship with people that has narcissist disorder, because we putting our trust, our hope, and our how can I say that, in them, and they cannot do that for us, and we cannot do that for you guys too. Only God can do for us and for you guys, but we need to be open for that. We need to be willing to receive that. So anything we need, right, to complete, to fulfill the emptiness inside of us, is only one that is able to do that, which you already got that part is working on, the spiritual part, right?
Yeah,
Because all the other things are carnal, is the ego. The ego is we do our will, what is we think is the best for us. But if we do what God says is the best, then you stop suffering little by little, right? Because it's a process, it's the whole life and it keeps
I
going.
think when you look inwards and you start, especially if you've been disconnected from what you really feel for a long time, it's harder because you have to rediscover that. But once you discover what you're actually passionate about, what you're here for truly, rather than what you should be looking like and being, that's definitely, I agree, I think that's definitely when your life starts to open up and you get that sense of fulfillment. But it's hard, and I think that, as I said, to some extent we're always going to want to know, from other people, are we great? Are we special? Are we lovable? Are we whatever? I think that that's always going to be, we want to feel like that towards, we want our partner to feel like that about us. We want to feel valued. But when that's the only pillar you have holding up your self-esteem, yeah, I think that's a very scary way to live. And it's hard to
when,
get
when
anything
you
done.
when you have that build up that it's going to be happening, it's already happening. It doesn't matter what people, you don't need people making you feel special anymore, because you already feel that for yourself. That's the point. For me, that's what helped me, because I also had to work on my identity and
You went
self.
through a very powerful journey. Yeah, I can definitely tell. Like you had your own road through
Yeah,
this.
I know how it is, and I also have anxiety. The codependent has anxiety too.
Oh yeah.
I know how it is. I suffer a lot with that. It's terrible. But anyways, I
Yeah.
have one more question here, and then you said two more, right? Or one more. You let me know.
I think we did 3, so that would be the second one, and we'll do if you
Okay.
want to do 2 more, then that's good.
Okay, perfect. So let's do that. It's a
Yeah.
bunch of more, but what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write it down. Them. I send you a message, and we see another day. Just so
Yeah.
answer the questions if you like. I can send the questions before if you like too. And you get
Yeah.
prepared.
I
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. They say here, what is the best way
Oh,
uh, uh, to deal with a person that is doing gaslight with you and invalidating you? Like if you.
oh man. Okay. So, whew. So honestly, that is a difficult one. I feel like if you have trusted people in your life, it's always a nice thing to ask, like, hey, to a third party, like, I had this situation. I'm feeling a little crazy right now. I don't know what's real. I don't know if he's right. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if they're right. Whatever, whoever's doing what. And ask, like, what do you guys make of this? You can check in with other people. That's definitely not a that's a frightening one though, because sometimes people who have friends who are enablers, and that can also go very badly. But I feel like I honestly feel like it's about building, as you mentioned, like a stronger sense of self, because when you really like when you self-discovered, yeah, people without identities, people who have identity issues are more easily scared into not knowing what reality is, either for themselves or for others. And
Mhm.
you know who you are deep down, you have a stronger sense of not only yourself, but the world around you, because you're viewing it through a more whole sense of self. And I think that, like, that is obviously the ultimate goal. Um, I think that reality checking can be helpful. I would never, this is just coming from me, but if someone was consistently gaslighting me, it would take, God, this is a hard one because, like, I feel, oh God, I had an ex of 5 years who was so patient with all of my bullshit. Frankly, like, all my defenses were at like a high, and he stayed and stayed and stayed. And I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what to do with that, because, like, the logical side of it is like he didn't deserve to be going through that, and I don't know, like, it's so difficult. What a difficult question, because, like, so many life coaches will just say, oh, just leave a person that's gaslighting you, leave them. Like, if someone gaslights you, call them, like, write them off as a piece of shit, and, like, never look back, and, like, dump them, and, like, whatever. And I feel like there's some, like, that sounds healthy, but, like, oh God. uh, that's a difficult topic. I want to do more thinking on that. Can I do
Okay.
that? Do more thinking.
What about when they are invalidating? He's basically.
I think there's only so much shit you can take. Oh, okay, here's what I would say. If there's no sign from the person, oh God, I'm so caught up. Cause I don't know. Cause, like, if there's no sign from the person of change, like, they're not in therapy and they're just invalidating, they're basically, like, you're enabling them, right, to do their behavior. But it changed my life that, like, my ex waited as long as he did and tried to accept me as long as he did. But at the same time, that should not be what happens. How do you do? I would almost ask you, like, because you're already a clinical, like, therapist. I want to know, like, where do you draw the line between, like, leaving somebody and not taking their shit and being like, I love you, so I'm trying to give you the space to, like, heal. I'm trying to show you, like, where would you draw that line? You know?
With me,
I got lost in that.
when I find out, right, and I was in shock. It was everything so new. I got anger. I got angry with those people because I was like, they know what they're doing. It's different because before I was like this. Oh, she makes mistakes. She does wrong, bad things, but I'm not perfect too. I do make mistakes too. So who am I to just block her and not talk to her anymore? I'm not better than nobody. But once I find out she knew it was conscious and she knew it was bad and she's still doing it, then I was like, I don't feel guilty. I'm doing the best thing to my life. I pushed myself away because it was trying to destroy my life, right? So I was protecting
I
myself.
see what you mean. I'm just so caught up because I've seen so much suffering on both sides, and I've seen like cluster B's suffering as well, and like afraid of abandonment and a lot of things. And of course, that's not an excuse to like stay with a person because of like they're afraid of abandonment, but they're also like treating you terribly. But at the same time, like it's a hard one. It's a hard one because one side of me wants to be like the therapist and say if somebody's showing any of these signs and they're being difficult, you should just block them and leave them and whatever. That's what they tell you.
So that's
I
what I was.
was one of those people. I was on the other side where I was being the shit and I didn't know why I did anything that I did. I was just kind of acting, and I was like lost and I was angry, and there's certain people that we like really changed my life and tried to accept me, and it and if and waited around, and like I feel so much for that now that I'm healing, that I'm actually going back and I am apologizing for my defenses to them, and I'm being what I feel like a lot of people never get from their partners, where they're waiting for that. Where I'm like, I actually did come back around, and speaking of my ex, like I've been helping him understand why did I do those things. I've been like helping him heal from that because I just feel like so I've hit that point where I've realized how much he actually went through just to like try and be there and like show me that I was accepted, and like I took that for granted.
Yeah.
I think it's such a
That's the word. That's the word I told to my ex. You take me for granted. And I said, don't take me for granted, because he did it all the time. But I was gonna tell you that, Tessa. Today is a different story, right? Today, what I would say to as a therapist, okay, I
yeah.
work on their strength, right? So let's build up. Let's find out about yourself and where is the problem there. Oh, because what is he giving to you, right? What is he or her, right? Because it can be a woman in a case is a man's patient, and anyways, just an example. So you can sometimes you cannot leave. Sometimes God don't tell you to leave. It happened to me. Sometimes he says, go, stay away. I did. But some people he says stay because I have a bigger purpose. And those are the people that God used to help, to show the other side, to bring the light.
I,
And it's always up to the person. You can see that some people, most of
I
them,
think I think at the very I can hear what you're saying for sure. I wow, that definitely brought up so much for me. I've never thought about that. So thank you for like that was a really enlightening question that God brought up to me. But I feel like at the very least, people need to understand about like setting strong boundaries and like assuming that you're with a if you're with a person who consistently doesn't respect those boundaries and who isn't even willing to like look at their own behavior, if they truly feel that you're like that you are the only one doing the wrong things, they don't want to have a discussion with you, how can a relationship really healthily happen at that point? And it's hard, and I think that having the ability to set boundaries is something that
and also Tessa, don't take it personal. Because we have ego too.
oh yeah, I
So,
found that out.
so when the person is gaslighting you or invalidating you, if you already working on yourself, it's not gonna hurt you. If you know who you are, if you love
Yes, you know
yourself,
who you are.
it's
That
not
was such
gonna,
a good point.
yeah. But otherwise, it will hurt you. I was so reactive, abusive at the end of the one of the. It was terrible. I was like, who is the bad one here? Is me or him? Because I was
Oh
right
no.
away like, I was like, what is this?
Yeah,
It's not me. You bringing up the worst in me. Never, nobody never did that to me, like, but I figured out why.
that
And I
happened.
worked on myself hard, really hard. But I had to learn, and now I can help others.
That
But
is a really I'm that is an amazing thing to like for you to have faced and done. Like that makes me really happy to hear. I always feel like the narrative it's been a difficult narrative where it's like the victim versus villain narrative, the codependent versus narcissist, where it's like we're both hurt people, and unfortunately, like a similar situation did happen with my ex, so I've seen that too. But yeah,
Another
these
thing,
are really,
another thing that
you left me with some really good things to think about.
yeah,
Some really
okay.
good things.
Another thing that it helped me a lot with this person in special. Once I knew, right? Um, every time he would do something, I didn't take it personal. See, the ego is not about me, it's about him. So I would tell him, I would say, here, look what you're saying to me is because this, and this. And he would look at me and he would, because you can see that when you say the truth. I remember I was doing therapy with this person and I go there, he does this and this and this, and he would not say anything like, no, I don't do this because me. I would say, no, he's lying. I didn't do. He would be quiet like he was,
Yeah.
because he knew he was doing that. So he would, and I go, he's just assuming because he's, you know.
Maybe you knocked some sense of reality into him. That's happened to me before.
I told him,
That was the moment where my ex literally screamed at me like, "You're acting off of pure fantasy right now. None of this is happening. None of this is happening." I was like, "Oh shit!" Like he's right. You know, this is crazy.
yes, it brings a reality, and you have to face it like, So, because when we react, we are already doing what you guys are trying to do unconsciously most of the time. But we are focus is on us now. Now the guilty is on us. The blame is on us. But when you don't take it personal and you have that protection,
Yeah, and
you
it's
tell the person as a mirror, like, okay, let me get a mirror, right? Imagine this is a mirror. So the person comes and tell you, you this, and this, and that. So he's seeing himself here because he's talking about himself. So say.
yeah, I feel like often with people who are prone to projection, that can be true. I think it's a very careful dance. Yeah, for sure. Making sure, is it really me? Is it not? Is he showing me himself, as you said? Is there like both can be true?
Yeah,
It's such a dance. I feel like what you said, yeah, like about growing a stronger sense of who you are is like probably the most powerful thing, to be able to perceive all of this stuff, to know when it's you, to know when it's them, to know when it's both, to know, like whatever. Because so many people, especially after like going through an abusive relationship, are so lost. Like they don't know what's abuse and what isn't anymore, what's real and what isn't anymore. And it's just like, it's a scary place to be. And it's, and on both sides, like as I said, both can be trauma bonded,
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
one more and last one, Tessa. I don't want to take your time so long, but let me see here. There's so many questions here,
It's
but
wow, 2:46. That's like 2 hours 46 minutes. That's real good though.
all
We're gonna
right.
give people a chunk of like they can binge watch this. This is
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Okay, or one last one. You allow me to do one more?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Um, she wanna know, Juliana wants to know if you already did silence treatment with someone, and what was the intention when they do that? I already know. I already say that in my videos all the time, but you can say by yours,
I,
by
my intention was to get them to feel, it was another subtle method of like, I don't want to actually talk about the real issue because that's messy and that's scary. So would you please feel bad privately and realize how much I meant to you, and then to come and try to like, show me how much. It's almost like I would get insulted. I would get like insulted, and then I would almost want them to prove. It was almost like, oh man, whew. Like they would be proving to me that I'm still important. That's one aspect of it. Like if I give silence and somebody else chases, then I feel safe again, because it's like, oh, there I am still important, and I didn't even have to ask. I didn't have to do the scary part. They just showed me, that's cool. That's not cool. It's not, but like there's that one, or honestly just hoping the issue will just kind of like resolve, and the person who has been silenced will feel so much shame that they'll just try to be better for me. It's like I mean, when I was in those spaces, I really felt like the other person was just awful. And I was like, you know what? They need to learn a lesson. Maybe they'll stop treating me so badly. You really get in this. I swear to God, it's such a,
I believe that.
you really do. And you're like, oh yeah, you know, they're gonna really realize with all this space, like how important I was, how they could never find anybody like me, how badly they acted. And then they'll come running back, and they'll just stop doing all this crazy stuff and just be the partner I want them to, you know. Of course that's never gonna happen, but
It's not a moment that you stop and think just for a little bit and say, here, I am the one that did.
no, sadly, no, there was not.
But now you know, right? Now you now you know that.
Oh God, I wish that. I don't know why there wasn't. It's a lot. I
Deep
don't know.
inside, you know, right? Deep inside, you know. I mean, a little bit, especially now, right?
Okay, now yes, but I had to have my life fall apart. I feel like why was I so unable to realize it? I have no idea. I don't know. I really, really, really felt like it was the other person. I don't know how I could have. I guess I just at some point maybe I decided that like it was. There's a very safe feeling that comes about from viewing yourself as always perfect and always good. I mean, what confidence that would give a person with so many secret fears, right? Like it erases all of that. And like you can walk into a room and just own the room and get everything and like whatever. How can you do that? Because you've convinced yourself really you can't ever make a mistake, so you'll never be shamed. And that just that plays into relationships, right? Where like you can't make a mistake there either, right? Apparently.
What is the biggest fear when you're talking about since the beginning? When you mentioned fear, what is the root of this?
So many things. Oh my God. I wrote an article. I almost want to bring it up because like it's so good. I wanted to post it on my website.
Would you give me just 1 second while you're finding that so I can go to the bathroom, please?
Yes.
I'm holding up for a while and I don't want to be, holding too much. But
Yeah.
you find that.
And I'll wrap this up, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, guys. We're gonna have to take a pause. That's not the right folder. Let me see if any of the comments are in English while I'm at it. No, they are not. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'll pause. Oh, man. All right, I found it. Just waiting for it to come back. I don't know how to give a performance to a bunch of people who don't speak the same language. Damn it. Oh, I found an English comment. Zalina says, she always says she's very shy and sensitive. I was always there, showing her love, showing her that I would be with her. She knew I genuinely cared about her. My question is, why do narcissists need to hurt us when we're there giving them love and showing them they will not be alone? Oh, well, I want to answer that real quick for the English comment and the people who can understand. But I, deep down, as somebody with NPD, I kind of hated the people who loved me because I felt like they never really knew me. I didn't really understand, and I still struggle to understand what they were loving because so long ago, I chose to just become somebody else. I felt like I had to steal traits to even be somebody worthy. So like when somebody said to me, I love you, I would get pissed at them. I would like get angry almost. I was like, you don't know what you're loving. You don't know, like, or I don't know. It's the concept of never having support and care. So like when it's presented to you, it almost feels like threatening or like, because like when you're saying here, like, we tried so hard to show them love, to show them they won't be alone. Hi, I answered the one English comment I could find. It was a sad one. But yeah, I hope that kind of explains it a little bit, so we can keep going. But yeah,
I missed out, so I will watch in the video when I edit it.
yeah.
Somebody else asked something here about if narcissists believe in God, and then you can choose to answer now or next time. It's up to you.
That's an easy answer. I mean, narcissists are individuals. I feel like every person with NPD is gonna have a different belief system because they're all people. So I think that, like, that's that. I feel like some do, some don't. There's so many diverse people in this world, but yeah, I wanted to, so on the topic of fear, yeah, I wanted to read like this piece of my article talking about that. It says, like, when you ask, like, what are people with NPD afraid of? I said, as a narc, you are afraid, so afraid, so deathly afraid of so much, and you can never show it. Afraid of being rejected for the final time and realizing you really are that disgusting and worthless, and you'll have to kill yourself. Sorry for being dark. Afraid you're actually still your past self deep down. Afraid if people see your fear, they'll find you pathetic and they won't admire you anymore. Afraid of the version that you built, that you know deep down ain't even you because you stole it from others, that it will always be what people love. Ooh, this is hard. And that whatever's left underneath just ruins it. Afraid that if you let yourself rely on someone again, they'll betray you like everyone else has, that they'll smash what's left of your heart and you won't be able to take the pain because you know deep down you're already too fragile. Afraid if you let them in, they'll laugh at you, find you crazy, find you a monster, find you unlovable, and they'll wonder, why did I ever give this a chance? You know, no wonder they hid all this. And then they'll go and find someone actually, you know, cool and caring and charming and worthy, and that you'll be left there on the floor. So you protect yourself with anger. Anger is so safe. It makes you look and feel so strong. It makes you not have to face the hell inside. And then you watch how it helplessly drive others away, which only furthers your hatred in humans, how they're all so stupid, shallow, pathetic, too emotional, stupid for trusting, stupid for attaching to others, blind, ignorant. But in the end, you sit there and you feel so alone. And I'm sorry for that being so dark, but that's
good. It's good to be.
I'm posting that. It's my little article. I wrote this whole thing because somebody asked me a question, and I'm making a website. It's not released yet, but that article will be on it.
I love your phone case. Mine is my name. Show
That's
me yours.
Mine's
nice. I love it.
Yeah, it's this little carnival ride.
I love it.
That's my dog. I'm so excited.
How cute. Aww.
She's a pug, Chihuahua pug. Say hi, Mocha.
Oh,
she's like, what's going on? But yeah, that was a nice and something very dark that I wrote. But really, I wrote it to show really what, like, because I was brave, you know, and I pride bravery. I really feel like that's true strength now. Like being able to say that out loud. That's
I don't see it's a dark, you know, like I just see you putting out, you being vulnerable and you putting out what you feel, how you feel inside. That's important.
Yeah, thank you for
I thank you for everything, for you being here with us all this time, and hopefully soon I will be able to translate so everybody else can. I have students here all this time.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. Wait,
yes,
psychology.
I have a lot of students that I teach how to become a therapist, and they want to learn from you too.
Brilliant. I am so excited for that. Genuinely, like, I'm so glad. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. And for sure, we're going to do 1 more, 2 more, 3 more. How many you allow us to do it?
Thank you.
I will write down the questions because there's a bunch here. And then I talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to, someone said thank you for answering my question, Tessa. You're welcome. I see more questions. I can't.
You seeing all the things I'm seeing here too? Is that do you see?
I just saw it. Yeah, but
okay.
the questions people still have, we will try to answer later. So
yes, there's so many questions here, but I will write it down and I will talk to you again, and we can make another time. Thank you so much, Tessa.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for watching. Thank you.
Take care. God bless you. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.